Hey YouTube, how is it going? I hope all is well. Team YDNA and Short Circuit are in the house, or at least they were. I know at least one of you was in the queue, but thank you guys for being so quick on the draw. I have added you both as moderators. You might see that pop up when you come back in here. Today, I gotta be honest, right now I'm not feeling so hot. I don't know what came about me. I was fine all day, and probably about 15, 20 minutes ago, I started getting a little bit of a weird headache, and I just feel a little bit of malaise. So bear with me while I gather up my strength. This might help. So today, we're kind of gonna go, you can see, it's gonna be real when we've got pen and paper out. So we're going to talk a bit about the upcoming build. Hey, how's it going, that guitar guy? Good to see you in the chat. Thank you so much for coming in. We're going to talk a bit about an upcoming build that I got going on. As you probably know, some of you, at least, hopefully all of you, have at least seen the post about the next, what amp you want to see me build next. And the winner was my own modern or medium gain, high gain amp. I have molded over a little bit, and I have decided we are going to go high gain. Try to imagine close to to diesel territory, VH4. I'm kind of shooting for channel 3-ish of the whole thing, so just keep that in mind. That is the goal at the moment, at least anyway. It will not be anything like that. I'm just saying as a goal. Now, the reason I kind of like the diesel amp topology, I guess, if you will, is that I like the smoother distortion that it has. It's kind of got a nice, what do you call it? It's just smooth. Like it was a neat experience. I got to play a little Fokker recently, and I was expecting it to be very bright, a little bit brash, and just rude, and a little more guttural. And it wasn't. It was actually a nice, fluid-sounding lead kind of tone. And given the name of the amp and kind of their whole history, Tool being popular for using them, et cetera, I was kind of shocked at how smooth it really was. So I was kind of like, okay, obviously I need to do some work. And I think the thing that kind of impressed me the most with it was the tone controls on it. The bass knob was really usable. So when you turned it all the way up, it wasn't flubby and, didn't sound all boomy and stuff. And when you turned it all the way down, it didn't sound extraordinarily thin. It just sounded thinner. The mid control was very usable. It didn't make it, it actually acted more like a mid control, which I kind of appreciated. And then the high frequency was probably the part that got me the most with it, was that even turned all the way up, the highs were not like killing your ears. You didn't want to stick ice picks in your head and all that stuff. And then when you turned it all the way down, obviously it sounded darker, but it wasn't so dark that it was like woolly and woofy and whatnot. So it was really usable. I was impressed by that. So obviously they did a lot of work in the preamp to make it kind of do that thing. I'm going to do something kind of my own way. I'm probably not going to use a conventional, treble middle bass kind of control. We're going to feel that one out. I don't know how it's going to go. But what I can tell you is that parts have been ordered, and some are even here. So you've probably heard me in the past talk about these multi-can caps and how I'm not a fan of them. I'm still not a fan of them, but some decisions were made about how I'm going to do this amplifier. So we've got 100 UF plus 100 UF on this thing. These will be ran in parallel, and being ran in parallel means we'll have 200 UF of, microfarads of capacitance, if you will, for something that's rated at 500 volts, right? So I'm not going to be running anything close to 500 volts. As you know, I like running at slightly lower voltages. So that means these things will run in parallel, which means I'll double up the amount of UF that I have available, and these things will run nice and safe and sane. So I am going to go with these big old fat, ugly turds. I'm not a fan of them, and I got the clamps here for them, et cetera, et cetera. So that will be a thing. You can see here I've got the 2 output sockets ready to go and a bunch of other things like that. So I have some parts starting to come, and they're slowly starting to arrive. I was initially going to use 6L6s initially. And I have decided to go against that. I am going to actually go with KT88s. Now, let me tell you why. I know what you're thinking, but low voltage KT88s, what's your pick on this, right? So I kind of want to have like I said, I don't really want to have like 5 or 6 different like amp designs that kind of follow the whole same thing, right? I've already kind of done that with my current amp lineup. So my new amp lineup, not new amp lineup, but my higher gain series of amps, if you will, are going to be kind of more of a modular sort of thing. And the idea behind that is that, you know, all I need to really do is change the transformers and add a pair of output tubes, and you get the next level up, if you will. So this kind of made it in a way where I can have a 50 watt and 100 watt kind of variation of it. And the only thing I would have to literally change would be the power transformer and the output transformer. There's some that might argue, why don't you just do 100 watt and then scale it down? I don't really care for that idea. To me, the output section does a thing, right? So yeah, you can tune 100 watt to do what it's supposed to do and just produce 100 watts of clean output, and that's more or less what the idea is. But the way that you're going to use that amp is going to be different, and I think that's where I'm kind of at with it, is that I want you to use the amp in a certain range, and that's kind of my way of getting you there, is if I produce an amp that's 18 watts, like it's just enough to really be enough to get over a drummer. You're not using that amp as a clean amp. You're kind of using it as a, crunchy kind of amp, right? And you put some pedals in front of it and you get all the boost and gain and all that fun stuff that you want. That's the idea. Same with my other topologies. I got, basically most of my larger amps are around 30 to 40 watts, right in that range. I kind of feel like 30 watts is the magic number. That's a me thing, but that seems to be about the magic spot for the amount of wattage that people will actually utilize that still produces usable cleans, but gets you that kind of output section crunch that many people like. Some don't. Now, this amp will be all preamp gain distortion. The power section is going to be designed to stay linear and clean the whole way. There will not be any form of output section distortion in this amp. If I designed it right, that's how it should be. I am going to use a 12AT7 for the phase inverter. Not very typical or common in higher gain amps, a la just about any one that you can name off the top of your head right now. The reason for that is that KT88, are pretty low in grid resistance and whatnot, so it loads down the previous tube pretty heavily. So imagine a 12AX7, et cetera, right? So it loads it down and it causes problems. Now the 12AX7 has no problem throwing voltage at its power tube that it's driving, right? That's not the problem. The problem is that it causes that tube to then distort and do weird things, and you generally end up in grid blocking or bias excursion, as they call it. More or less, you're throwing so much voltage onto the grid of the power tubes that it actually starts to conduct. And once it starts to do that, it really loads down the phase inverter, and then that causes all kinds of other ugly shit to happen. And of course, the bias starts to shift as well. You go from class A, B down into closer to class B, if not into class B. So you don't want that. It sounds bad. It's not really cool. It's not a good thing. A way around that is to reduce the amount of voltage that you're punching towards the power tubes, enough still to get them close, if not right at the edge of, grid conduction, bias excursion, if you will. But they have enough current, use the current to drive through the load that they present to the phase inverter or the pi or whatever you want to call it. And you still get the same amount of actual usable gain range. So you still get clean linear output all the way up to that point without affecting the phase inverter as much. So the phase inverter stays cleaner longer, and it powers the power tubes to the point of distortion just the same. So you're kind of shifting things around a little bit. And with KT88s, you need to have current to drive through to push them and get them to where you want. So that's the goal. I'll use a 12AT7 for the phase inverter and it will be better. Why did I opt out of going with a 6L6 or a 5881? I was initially looking at my options that I had available. I didn't want to buy another, power transformer. And I knew I was going to need a pretty big power transformer. And it was just like, well, I've got in hand, readily available, due to a mistake perhaps in my favor at this point. I ordered about a year or two ago a Hammond 372JX, which is the one I use in 2 of my amps currently right now. That's what I ordered. What I got was a 372KX, and I kid you not, the transformer is almost the size of this piece of paper. I'm kidding, it's not quite that big, but it's damn near, a third of the size of this paper, if not more. Huge. This thing's a beast. It's rated for 500 milliamps of current. Actually, 575 milliamps of current. So it's probably 3x the amount I would need even for a 6L6. Another transformer that I had in stock, or available, I should say, is another. It's the same voltage, so 300, 0300. That's what this KX produces. But I have another one. It's not a JX or a KX. It's an FX. It's the next level down, and it's one that I intend to use for other builds that I have going on in the future. But that one's only rated for the FX one that I have is only rated for 173 milliamps. And that is enough to push 5881s. Like, it'd drive 5881s, and it would be in a realm, but it's not ideal. And it's just not ideal for 6L6s. 6L6s do require some current. So I decided that the only way to do it right is to use this ginormous KX series transformer that I have. And that'll ensure that I have more than enough voltage on my HT, because it'll draw. That transformer's not even going to know the tubes are there, right? That's how big it is. And because of that, I was like, you know what? I might as well just load it up at least a little bit. So I was like, I can still get the same amount of wattage out of the KT88s, but they won't be doing any work. And that is why I have some pieces of paper out here in front of us. How did I come to that decision? Remember, there's a video that I did about how to kind of start the process of building an amp. And one of the things I said that you have to decide first, more than anything, is kind of deciding what wattage you're looking to get, right? So in this case here, we're looking for about 50 watts. And I want a solid 50 watts on this one. Not 45, not 48, a solid 50. And I can get that. And it would be nice to even get maybe a little over 50 watts, but we want a solid 50 watts. So that's what we're going to shoot for, is what wattage do we want? We want 50. I'm going to write this nice and big. And don't you laugh at my handwriting. I'd never progressed past the 3rd grade. So we know that we want 50 watts, right? That's what we're shooting for. We know that we want to use KT88s. All right, so we're going to put 88s in there. So those are the tubes that we're going to use. Now, we don't need to know what that is to come up with this number here, but we need to have a rough idea of a couple other things. So we need to know what our HT voltage is going to be. So our HT voltage, and I'm just going to put HTV for voltage. I'll put VO. I'll spell it out. What the hell? Why not, right? And we're going to go equal, all right? And then we need to know what our primary impedance of our OT. So I'm going to put OT, and now I'll put just prime. All right. Hell, I'll just put primary, because why not? Equals, right? We need to know at least these 4 things to kind of get an idea of where we're going to go with this. And the easy answer is you kind of just start playing with the numbers a little bit. So the way to find out what the primary output transformer the primary resistance of your output transformer is, or needs to be, is to first decide on, it's kind of, that's why you need all this stuff. You need to know what wattage you want, and then you need to know what tubes you have, because you need to know how much wattage your tubes can produce, right? So if you're going to go with a pair of 6L6s, they're technically rated, if you get the GCs, they're rated for 30 watts apiece. And at 30 watts apiece, that means you have a total of 60 watts. That's more than 50. But you need to know that they can get there, right? So you need to know the tubes that you're going to have to make sure that you can get that wattage that you're shooting for. And then you kind of fudge the numbers around a little bit. A good round number to try to fudge with every time, like this is kind of a little secret, if you will. If you don't know what HT voltage you want to have, just shoot for 420 volts. All right? Just put 420 volts, and then you square that by itself. Yeah. So I'm just thinking in my head how I want to explain this for you later on. So you take 420 times 420, right? That equals some large number, and then you divide it by the wattage, right? The wattage. So we're going to go divided by 50, and we end up with 3,528 ohms, right? 3,528. So just think of that real quick. I'm going to do some stupid math up in the top corner here. And 420 is not just some silly, it's not meant to be a gimmick. That's just, it gives you a really good idea of where to start with for a large number of tubes that will work, between 50, even 100 watts or so. So you put 420, and then you square it, right? So you square 420, squared. And then you divide it by the wattage. So you go divided by watt. So we're going to say 50, right? And that's going to equal 3,528. 3,528 ohms. That is the OT primary resistance that you're shooting for. What's close to that, right? That's what you're shooting for, is technically something that's about 3,500 ohms. I have a 3,200 ohm, right? Makes sense? So objectively, I'm shooting for something that's got somewhere around 400 to 420 volts that will be hitting the plates of my tubes that are capable of producing that output in a pair. And with that level of primary resistance on those tubes, I should get X amount of wattage. So it just happens to work out by accident, not by accident, right? So does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you. I'm trying to explain the thought process behind where you go from nothing to something. So that was the objective, is 50 watts. I need to pick at least 2 tubes. It doesn't matter if it's 6L6s or EL34s or some other 25 watt tube. As long as the tube is rated for 25 watts or better, you know that you can get 50 watts. That's your magic number. You take some sort of magic HT voltage. Now, you have to keep in mind that the HT voltage that you're shooting for is the loaded down voltage. So you have to imagine that once you have all the tubes in and everything's up and running, you might start with 420 volts on your HT unloaded, but once you stick all those tubes in, it's going to draw that voltage down a bit. The weaker your power transformer is, the more it's going to draw the voltage down. It's a real show already. I'm sorry, excuse me, that was rude, but it has to be done. All right, so what do I mean by that, just to kind of clarify things a little bit more? So imagine that you have a power transformer that's rated for 150 milliamps. In a 50 watt amp, that probably would not work, because at idle, which is to say that when it's at idle, just being on and biased to where it needs to be to operate within its desired range, each tube will be drawing, let's say 60 milliamps apiece. So you got 120 milliamps of draw just on the tubes. Maybe. That's a hypothetical, but let's just say that's what it is, right? Well, that means you've only got another 20 or 30 milliamps of draw throughout for the rest of the amp, the remainder of the amp. That includes the screen grid and all the preamp tubes. So the more preamp tubes you add, the more current draw you're going to have on your HT rail. Now, each triode is worth about 1 milliamp of current with the 12AX7. Different tubes, 12AU7s, pull like 5 milliamps per, or maybe even more, 100 milliamps or something. I don't know, whatever it might be. But different preamp tubes pull different amount of, current. That's what the milliamps are. So you need to add all that up and factor that in, and then you need to have some sort of a safety margin. How much? Well, the more you give, the stiffer the power supply will be. The less margin you give, the looser, the less margin you give, the looser and more squishy it would be, right? So I would say, honestly, 50% is probably a pretty good number. It gives you a good balance between HT drawdown and, safety margin, if you will. And you really don't have to consider the preamp tubes that much. They're really not worth that much. Even if you had 5 12AX7s in your amplifier, I mean, that's 10 milliamps maybe at most. If you fudge it up a little bit for safety margin, that's another 15 milliamps. That's nothing. In the grand scheme of things, 15 milliamps isn't that much. The screens are an unknown factor, mainly because at idle, they're not really drawing all that much current, the screen grids. There's not that much current being drawn. But at higher volumes, they're going to start to draw more current. And as they draw more current, it's going to load down the HT just that much more, et cetera, et cetera. It's like this vicious circle or cycle, if you will. So those are all the kind of things that you want to keep in consideration. So yes, I would say that 50 to 60% margin is probably pretty safe. So that's why that 173 milliamp power transformer that I had wasn't looking too appealing. I was figuring at least 80, maybe 100 milliamps tops out of the tubes, and then with everything else going on, I'm sitting right around 110, 120. So let's just round it up to 125 or something like that. That only leaves me with about, 50 milliamps, thereabouts. So out of the whole thing, I'm sitting right around the 60 or so percent mark, right in that range anyway. So it's like, I don't know. And I knew it was going to draw down my HT voltage. As the HT voltage goes down, so does your wattage. So that's what you have to imagine, is that while the amp is on and running, the HT voltage that you divide or square, by itself, and then divide by X watts is what's going to come up with this number. And the lower that number is, when that number doesn't change, the lower that number is going to end up being, right? Because this number doesn't change. Once you buy that output transformer and attach it, that number doesn't change. In theory. So we know we've got 50 watts. We're going to go with KT88s, and the type of tube doesn't really matter in terms of the wattage. Even if these things produced 100 watts a piece of total output, it wouldn't matter, because you can still bias them to work at 50 watts or utilize 25 watts of the thing. They won't be doing anything, but they'll still work. All right, so we know our HT voltage that we're shooting for is, I'm going to say I want somewhere between 405. I'm going to say 405 because I want better than 400 to 420. I know I'm not going to get 420, but we know that we're shooting for 3528 for our output transformer primary. We don't have a 3500 one. We got a 3200. So now we can kind of do some math to figure out what we're going to get in a worst case scenario. So let's take our actual theoretical. So this is our loaded down value right here. So I'm shooting for something right around 405 or more. But 405 is my low end. That's what I want to have. So we'll take 405 times 405 equals some large number, 164,000 at this anyway. And then what we're going to do is divide that by 3,200, because that's what we actually have. And we end up with 51.25 watts. All right? So this number on the low end is 51.25. So we'll put 51.25, because what we've done is we've squared that number and then divided it by this number. All right? So let's do the math on that. So I'll do 405, and I'll put the little squared symbol, and then we'll divide by 3,200. And I think it's a little higher than 3,200. I actually do think it's a 3,500 ohm thing, but I'm going to put 3,200 just because that's what I remember. And that equals that, right? Okay. Now going the other direction, let's say we're going to end up with 410. You can do the math on that, and it's going to end up being some larger wattage. So 410 times 410 divided by 3,200 equals 52.53. So you gain another watt, right? So that's how you can kind of do that. Now, is 50 watts okay to push through a 50 watt output transformer? More than likely. It should be able to handle the wattage that it's actually rated for. It's a dynamic thing, and it's really hard to kind of actually just build it to say that it will only handle 50 watts. It's designed to work at 50 watts. That's what it's actually designed to work at. That means there is a little bit of leeway on the upside of it. and it's still kind of average power. It's kind of like what would you can say? It's like a motor or I don't know, like a light bulb or something like that, right? The light bulb's designed to work at 12 volts. You can feed it 15 volts and it'll still work. It's just going to get really bright and it might not last as long. That kind of thing. So 55 watts into a 50 watt transformer, probably not a big deal. And that is, again, assuming that you're using all of the output that you possibly have. So Lord knows what the duty cycle on it is, but let's just say you feed a sine wave into your amp and leave it on for 10 hours straight at full blast. Yeah, that output transformer is probably going to take a dump and burn up on you. But when was the last time you literally set up an amplifier and got a sine wave running through it, turned it up all the way full blast and walked away, right? Never. So yeah, it's going to be okay. So that's how you kind of come up with those numbers. And of course you can fudge things around. So even if it was 3,500 ohms, we already know it's going to be spot the hell on. If this was an output transformer that had 3,500 ohms, it would be spot on. And we know that we'd get right around 50 watts. So perfect. That's what we're going to go with. That's how I came to that conclusion. So why did I suddenly transition to going with the 12AT7 then? As I already mentioned before, it's about the current driving capability of it. And I apologize if it kind of sounds like I'm talking at you. Oh, good. I'm starting to get some questions. I love that. All right. So that was where I was going. I was like, I want people to engage a little bit. I don't want you to feel like I'm just giving you a lesson in school or something like that. Let's engage. So yes, does sag come from the power transformer? Yes and no. Yes, if it's loaded down significantly. So as you start to get to the end of the line for that power transformer, it can start to sag. I would say for the most part, yes and no. Now, the capacitance does also play a role. I'm glad you asked that question. So yes, the more reservoir that you have, that's why they call it a reservoir cap. The very first capacitor in your HT rail is the reservoir capacitor. It's exactly what its job is to hold and try to maintain the HT voltage along the line. So that's why going bigger is generally better. There is a downside to that, though. It's not just, you don't get nothing for free. So you have to imagine, let's say you put a safety resistor across the leads there, right? And that's a bleed down resistor. They call it a safety resistor because its job is to bleed all the voltage that is stored in this thing away to ground. So it won't hurt you if you go in there and start yapping on these things, right? You don't want that. So when these things are uncharged, as far as the voltage is concerned, it's a dead short to ground. So you turn on a power transformer and it's jumped up to 500 volts, let's just, whatever your HT voltage might be, whatever that might be, it's going to jump up to it right now. This thing hasn't had time to charge up yet. It's going to have a huge spike. It's going to stress out the diodes. It's going to stress out the power transformer. It's going to stress this guy out. It pisses a lot of things off. And the higher you go with that value, so let's say 2000 UF or something like that, we'll just go to the extreme, right? That really, really, really takes a long time to charge up, okay? Because it's a storage of energy, which means you have to put the energy into it in order for it to charge up and store it. So the bigger the capacitor, the longer it takes to charge up. That's that. So you don't want to go too big if you don't have any kind of protections in your amp. I'm going to use a thermistor in my circuit. It will go in between the power transformer secondaries and the rectifier. Or no, excuse me, my apologies. Other way around. It's going to go between the switch and the primary of the power transformer. So when you turn the amp on, it's going to kind of slowly ramp up, right? It'll kind of just, I don't know how long it will take. I'm assuming based on the value of thermistor that I'm going to go with, it might take a couple seconds before it starts to warm up enough that electrons really start to flow. But by then, this guy here has enough of a charge that it's not like a dead short and it'll do what it's supposed to do. How long will it take to charge this? I don't know. Second or two, maybe. Tops. Milliseconds. Who knows? But it's the idea of the thermistor is to slow down that inrush current And in doing so, it allows everything else to soft start, if you will. So that's the idea there. So I will be using a thermistor. I'm only going to go crazy on 2 of the nodes. So this will be my reservoir cap, and then this will be for, the second one will be for the screen grids. And because of the size of this amp and the size of the tubes and everything else that I plan on going on with this thing, I want a nice firm power supply. And that's going to get to the question that you actually have asked about the capacitance. If you have lower capacitance, yes, it can cause sag, because if everything down the line of it is working at 100%, the reservoir cap is the one that draws down the most, right? Because that's the one that's all the source of energy is coming from. And then, yes, it takes time to charge up. So the more you deplete from it, the longer it takes to charge up. If it can't keep up, then yeah, you're going to have some sag and some problems. Ghosting becomes a problem, so you get ghost notes. You might even start to hear some hum, et cetera, et cetera. It'll start to work its way into your signal, if you will. Another thing that actually causes sag is large dropping resistors in the early parts of the HT rail. So if you have a large resistor in between your rectifier and your first reservoir cap, that they usually call it a sag resistor for a reason. Resistors don't resist voltage, they resist current. That's what you're actually slowing down, is current flow. So the voltage drop is the result of that. So using larger resistors early in the amp generally will cause the feel that you get out of the power supply section. So lower is generally better if you want more immediate attack or sharper, more firm feel. In this case here, I am going to use a 250 ohm, 606 at 30 watts. You had MAGA sag? Yeah, I'll bet. Because 6L6s, they draw some stuff. So yeah, it will definitely draw things down, especially with the power transformer that comes in it. Every time you hit the note, it went. It's actually how compression kind of works. There's different types of compression circuits, but you can imagine an optical one because that's the easiest one to imagine. So you've seen the lights flicker. That's the wife calling me. You've seen the lights flicker in your house, right? Like when you turn on like your washing machine or something like that. That's literally the washing machine pulling a bunch of energy out of the system and the lights dim. Well, imagine a light dimming, and that controls like a VCA or some other, circuitry that takes the volume down with it. Same kind of thing. So yeah, that is a factor. Obviously, too large is, as I mentioned, kind of not the end all be all. There is a way to calculate what your knee is, and I mentioned it before, again, in another video, that your knee, you're shooting for as close to 0 hertz as you can get. Excuse me. Blink. Yeah, out. So you're shooting to get as close to 0 hertz as you can get. You're never actually going to get to 0 hertz, right? Like, it's impossible to get that low without going insane, right? But you need a combination of resistance and capacitance, or you have to use a choke. I'm not a fan of chokes. They do a thing. Their job is to resist current. That's how they work so well. So when they resist current, they have a little bit of a feel to them. Chokes are spongy but not spongy, firm but not firm. So chokes in a well-designed circuit that works within its range that it needs to work in works great. It does better than any, resistor and capacitor circuit can possibly do in terms of ripple reduction, because it resists current change that good. The problem is when you really start spanking the electrons through it, so you have a huge draw on it, its job is to reduce or resist current flow, which means it is going to sag. So as long as it's working within its range, it works great. But as you really start to get with it, it starts to go away. Whereas resistors are a little more fixed, if you will, right? So whatever sag they kind of have is built into it. It doesn't get any better or worse, that sort of thing. Objectively, I'm trying to go with a very thumpy, solid, very firm, articulate is the word I guess we'll use, output section. I want the output section of this amp to not have any character or feel or whatever you want to call it on the whole of the amp. It's just, its job is going to be to reproduce whatever the preamp is going to do. All the feel, everything else about this amp is going to be done in the preamp side of it. And I point over here because I usually, the way I run my amps is from right to left, and I use the power section over here generally. Well, I don't know. It's the way it's laid out on my amps anyway. The input's over here and the power stuff's over here. That's a me thing. Some others go the other direction. Mine's apparently reverse. I don't know. So I like starting on the right and going left. However, you start the design of your amp with the power section first. You cannot get to the preamp and worry about any of that crap going on over there unless your output section is dialed in. You need to know what you're going to do. You can change your mind once you get there and everything's built, but you kind of need to, if this stuff isn't worked out first, you're going to fight yourself a bit because you're either going to have a power supply that's not strong enough and you're going to be fighting that. Depending on how you go, cathode biased or fixed bias, whatever that might be, is going to change how it works. Feedback or no feedback, negative feedback that is, all those little things kind of come into place. You kind of have to figure all that stuff out first, and then you can kind of work your way towards the preamp. In this case here, the power section of the amp is not meant to really impose itself on anything. It's just going to do whatever's coming into it and spit it out. So there's that. And then, of course, 12AT7. So we'll go ahead and write that down. So we're going to go 12AT7. We'll put a little dash in there so you know it's a 7 equals pi. I'm just going to put pi. And then I have not decided exactly the number of tubes I'm going to put in the preamp. But I am going to go with a parallel triode. That is kind of one of my things. So I'm going to have the parallel triode in the first tube stage still. So that's going to eat up one of my triodes down the line. And I can either do 2 tubes, so my parallel triode, and then 2 more tubes. So that's a total of 5 gain stages, which would get me in the right orientation to where I want to be. Or I can use 3 preamp tubes and have a total of 6 gain stages. I'm not too keen on going that direction with it, but it is an option. I'm reading your thing. I'm sorry. So yes, is the idea of designing a preamp to ideally yes. So you can run load lines. That's a way to do it. It's probably the proper way to do it, but load lines are a stupid thing, and all the theory in the world doesn't tell you how it's going to sound, right? That's why I kind of try to keep the math out of this for the most part. I show you the simple stuff because you have to know this. Like, there's no getting around this portion of the math right here. The rest of it's pretty easy to figure out because it really doesn't matter. And we've talked about resistors in the HT rail, how they drop voltage, and we were talking about sag. The only point at which sag is induced is when the resistors that are in the dropping nodes are before the screen. By the time you get past the screen and into the pi or phase inverter and the preamp section of it, it doesn't matter how big you go with the dropping resistor, it's not really going to induce any kind of sag. The reason being is there's not enough current draw across that resistor to have any appreciable current, like sag, no sag, right? It's not going to drop the voltage that much. All the other stuff is done out of the way. All the heavy draw stuff's done. A preamp tube doesn't have that much draw. So, yeah, you don't have to worry about the preamp as much, getting backwards a little bit. But you do need to do the math if you have an idea in mind. And there are calculators online, and you can kind of do it. It's, it's all Ohm's law stuff anyway. But let's say you have 400 volts at your screen grid, right? After loaded down, everything's loaded down. So you got 400 volts here and you're shooting for 350 volts here. Well, if you know that you've got 4 preamp tubes and they're each worth 2 milliamps a piece, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, right? So that you got 8 milliamps of current draw. you can do the math and figure out that if you need to drop X number of volts with X amount of current draw, you will end up with X resistance. And it's the same thing as this here, right? It's the same kind of math as that up there. So you do that, and then you go, okay, I need a 10,000 ohm resistor or 10K ohm resistor to get X amount of voltage drop. Obviously, the lower the milliamp draw is, the higher the value of the resistor will need to be in order to get X amount of voltage drop. So that's how you come to that. Yes, there are there are calculators online that will help you kind of go through all that. It's a lot easier when you can envision it that way, because the other part of the math that you kind of want to work out is what your corner frequency is going to be. So we talked about using a resistor and a capacitor for filtration. It creates a knee, and you want to try to get as close to 0 as you can. Well, most preamp tubes, I think on this one I am not going to do a post-phase inverter master volume. Mainly because the master volume on this amp, or the power section on this amp is not designed to go into distortion. It's not designed to really affect anything. It's just going to amplify what's coming from the preamp. And yes, we are going to do an effects loop. My very first time ever, we're going to do an effects loop. Another part of the reason why I want to design it into the whole of the amp, the front end of it. Hey, baby. Say again? I'll have to look. They should be on our desk, but I don't.
Are you sure they're in there? Because I need them for tomorrow morning.
Oh, where are you going, on base?
No, I'm taking him to do it.
Oh shit. I'll get them. You can get it on your phone too, but I'll get it for you. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Our kid is getting his driver's license tomorrow morning, so we need to have stuff available for that. But anyway, getting back to where we were. Yes. It's going to have an effects loop. And I am going to make it and design the amp to work around that effects loop, because the power section is going to do exactly what it's supposed to do, which is just amplify whatever comes into that pi. Whatever goes into the phase inverter, it's going to punch out exactly as it came in at. So my hope is that I design it really, really well, and it sounds really, really good, and no matter what you do, it's going to sound great. Right? With power and output turns and full. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, from a design standpoint, you can still kind of work around those variables. You just kind of have to know what it is that you're working with, right? Like if you know that you've got a 3500 ohm transformer, and you know that your or output transformer, we're going to clarify that, and you know that your power transformer will produce 350 volts, you can work out whatever wattage it is, right? So if you know that you got, let's just do the math right now. Let's just do it because we can. So we go 350 volts times 350 volts, right? And then we divide it by, we know that we got 3,500. And again, these are just hypothetical numbers, so whatever. You know that you can get 35 watts, right? So 35 watts, you can run 5881s, you can run, EL34s, you can still do 6L6s if you want. 35 watts, you can probably run 4 EL84s, you can probably run 4 KT66s and stuff like that. Like those are the types of things that you kind of do the math on and work it out. So yeah, you can kind of reverse engineer, if you will, a little bit to some degree. It's just ideal if you can kind of control what you're looking for up front. I am lucky because I buy all new stuff. So if I want X, Y, Z, I'll buy X, Y, Z. And if I don't like it, I have two designs that I ended up going with a different transformer for. There's a little 5-watt design that I did. And initially, it looked like it would have worked out just fine with what I was shooting for, but it ended up being a little bit too low. It was drawing down just a little bit more than I wanted. So I ended up having to get a different transformer that was just a little bit higher in basically like milliamp availability, etc., like that, in voltage, just to kind of keep me where I wanted, that sort of stuff. So sometimes you miss the mark. Sometimes. Team Whiting, hey, how you doing there? Oh, field coils. That changes the game up a little bit too. I haven't done that yet. They kind of scare me a little bit. Like it's something else when you've got literally a high voltage source external to the amp. It's just kind of odd when you're literally sending a fair amount of voltage to the speaker itself to do the work. It's kind of odd. I don't know. I have a 1939, I believe it is, or 1937 Philips stand-up radio. Like this thing is tall. It's like one of those full like console style radios. Amazing kit, right? It uses what do they call them? Like the Z80s or something like that. I can't remember the exact term for them, but the rectifier tubes that it uses like a Z80 or something. I don't know. I can't remember. And a bunch of it has all kinds of freaking tubes laid out all over the place. But really neat. Really neat. And it has a field coil for the speaker. It's like a little 8-inch speaker that's in there. It's kind of cool. But so yeah, I will have an effects loop. I'm not going to design my own. There are a couple out there that are actually really good. The one that Mojo Tone makes, or sells, I should say, it's basically the same one that Granger has available for it. There's a couple other companies that have them, and those are really honestly about as good as they come in terms of effects loops. London Power has a tube-based effects loop, but I don't like the PCB board that they have, and I don't like that they use a ceramic thing. I'm sure I could trade it out. I'm sure I could reverse engineer the circuitry, but I don't want to do a tube effects loop. I kind of just assume that, I want it to be switchable. I am going to make the amp switchable. It's going to be just a 2-channel. Excuse me. It won't be crazy. It's not going to have like 5 or 6 different things going on, right? Kids in the pool and out of my hair. Luckily, he's a little bit older. He's just late to getting his driver's license, but still. Oh, you're waiting for pizza. Oh, my apologies. My kid is a little bit older. He's late to the freaking ID game, but you got to have your drink of choice within arm's reach at all times. So yeah, there's that. As far as things go, getting back to the preamp a little bit. Yeah, I want to do my parallel triode thing. Mainly it's just some of the benefits. I've talked about it before in other videos, but we'll rehash it right now because why not? So when you run a triode in parallel with another one, you basically you drop the noise floor by 3 dB, right? And then you actually increase the output a little bit. So let's say whatever the output of a single triode is from a 12AX7 is 1. We'll just say it's 1, right? Well, with a parallel triode, you get something like 1.3 or 1.4. So it's a little more output and less noise on the floor. So the noise floor is quieter and you get a little more oomph. And because you're running 2 triodes in parallel, there's no 2 that are ever exactly the same. So they kind of add their own kind of character and they meld together, right? I don't know if you've ever done it before. You can do it. It's not probably advisable, but you can take 2 output sections and literally run them directly together, right? You can do that. It does some weird stuff, but you can do it. Let's say you got 2 output sections, and ask me how I was trying to find this out, because that's kind of how the Atlas was initially designed. But you take this output and you take this output, and let's say you turn this one all the way up and this one really, really low. Well, it's going to do something. It's going to load this other one down a little bit. So, triple triode. I don't know if we need to go that crazy. I think you reach the point of diminishing returns at that point. Andrew, good to see you again, man. Thank you for coming back. I can definitely say that would, I'm going to add you as a moderator too, because it's going to hide from me, you little bastard. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. Haha. I was able to hit the save button. I'm finally starting to get this OBS and YouTube sync thing to work out. I was reading today, I was sick and tired of starting streams and then having it crash. And having it crash and then being like up shit's creek with where things are at, I realized that if I schedule it in YouTube, it puts out a notification to people, which some of you got and were sitting literally in the queue right off the get-go. So I love that. And then it's much, much easier on the OBS side because you start up the stream and then it gives you feedback right away that like, hey, things are rolling, but you're not live yet. So there's a go live button. And then you hit the go live button once you know everything's kind of stabilized. And then it's just so much easier. Thank God I got that figured out. So hopefully this intro and everything else went like it was supposed to. That's the plan. So I'm starting to slowly but surely figure it out. I will try to be more interactive. I know that this is boring. The hands are boring, but you know, it's good for it. I don't mind getting roasted. The roast that Andy did of me was kind of funny. Hey, you two. That was actually funny. I can dig it. But again, I just, you know, if you saw my face, it would be so distracting. I'm so damn fine. Like, I don't need you looking at my face going, damn, that dude is hot. I need you to be paying attention to things like this. I'm just teasing, of course. But I wish I was that good looking. But I did all right. I do all right. So let's forget about the build for a second. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other crap that's been going on, like the giveaway amp. I want to switch topics a little bit. So the giveaway amp is coming along. I finally got the inside veneers done. I am still putting content together. I am at least 1 week behind at the moment right now. My intention was to have all the wood cut out, the veneers, all that fun stuff done and glued in or painted and glued in by this point in time. That did not happen because I fudged up big time. And I mentioned even in my last live that I was going to take my sweet doodah time to make sure I didn't fudge anything up. Well, what did I go ahead and do anyway? I fudged shit up. I don't have the piece available right now, but more or less what happened is I crashed the CNC machine. First time in a very, very long time. So I have a CNC machine, but it's only a 36 by 36. I say only, all right? But my usable area of workable space is 28 by 28. Assuming you don't leave the freaking vacuum boot or the vacuum extractor in the way. So I didn't think nothing of it. I started the job and I had the extractor boot just sitting there kind of doing what it's supposed to do, which is suck up, sawdust. And it did the first section. It got through the second section, no problem. And then it goes to do the third and final section. We are like this close to being freaking done. And then all of a sudden I hear this burp, and then it starts going around and cutting back into the piece that it just cut out. And I was like, the number of expletives. Because I literally destroyed a $40 chunk of wood, a beautiful chunk of wood. So not only was I mad that I destroyed a $40 chunk of wood, but I was mad because that was the only one I had left. So yeah, that slowed things down a lot. I did take the time to do this instead. I wasn't anticipating having these done by that point in time, so I was able to make up some ground, but I had to wait for the wood to arrive. It arrived yesterday. And yesterday I was able to cut it out, the new pieces, that is, and fit them in today. But that means I will not have them glued or, sanded, finished, all that fun stuff until this weekend. And then I'm dead in the water for at least another week because next week I have to get prepared for a big show that I got coming on. So my old career was that of a sound engineer. I used to do sound for bands, corporate events, and names you've heard of, right? That's what I used to do, is travel the country doing sound, et cetera, et cetera. But I have a local event that I'm doing, and it's a pretty big one. I will have some L-acoustics. I will have basically everything I own in my garage heading out to do this gig. It's only a one-day event for me, but it takes a whole week to prep for it. So, I got to go through and make sure everything's just everything. I got to get all the music curated and compiled, all the fun stuff. A lot goes into it. So next week, do not expect anything from me. If you get a live, that's what I'm hoping to do, is at least a live to kind of just keep content rolling out. So that puts me maybe week 2 or 3 of September before we'll have any more actual content on the giveaway amp. What I can tell you is that there has been some recording being done. So I do have some music and some recording of the amp that has been done. That will be included in that. I'm trying to get it down into one video to try to give you an idea. I might do one more after that is literally just sound sample type stuff, but that's the idea. So, and then the ass end of September, we'll do the actual giveaway, like drawing and stuff like that. I still have to do all the compilation and stuff like that of who's got what points and stuff like that. So we'll have one more opportunity for points, and that will come in the video for the build at that point. So when I do the next video on the giveaway amp, we'll have that last game, the last chance to get any kind of points in. It will be only worth 1 point. And then we'll do the drawing a couple weeks after, hopefully. That's the plan. As far as this new build goes, I have ordered stuff. I already have the power transformer. I already have the output transformer. As you can see, I have some parts starting to flow in. I ordered the KT88s today and a couple other things. The chassis has already been ordered. It is... Historically, it takes about a month for me to get the chassis from the gentleman that I order them from. So I was anticipating that by the time I actually got it, I would finally have all the rest of the parts here so I can start just kind of going on it. Now, that build probably won't actually start after I get all the parts. So I'm kind of jumping the gun on this video here. And I know I've lost some of you because I'm boring. But, you know, this is basically ATech News Network at the moment. So the objective is to try to make it an all live series. So that series on that new video or the new amp build will be live. So you'll see everything in grueling detail. I do not expect it to be fun. If you're into how it actually looks to build these things from start to finish, all the cursing and curring and all the other fun stuff that goes with it, I am going to try to do multiple views. I think what I'm going to do is set up a monitor inside of the garage and set it up so I can see, you know, the stream and, you know, people's comments and stuff on the sidebar or whatnot, so I can address you as I'm going along and just kind of see where we're at. It'll kind of be a la, dare I say, Andy Lederman style, sans some of the other things. The interesting aspect of it, right? More to the point. So I'm going to try to have multiple views that I can switch to so you can see different things going on. You may accidentally see my face. I don't know. I may actually just get that out of the way and peel the Band-Aid off. I don't know. I don't want to overlap things too much. So realistically, I'm not going to try to do a new build while I still haven't, you know, completed the giveaway aspect of this current one that's going on. So realistically, ass end of September, first week of, what is that, October or whatnot that's coming up. That's when that'll happen. So that's the idea there. I don't know how interesting that's going to be, but I think it'll be kind of a good way for you to kind of gauge like some of the difficulty of this. Another thing I wanted to touch on a little bit was the pricing of these amps. I'm starting to get some interest. There are people that are starting to hit me up a little bit about, you know, my amps, how to get them. You know, what about this? What about that? Like, what does it take to get one of these things? Oh yeah, no, there's one out there. I'm not realistically trying to hide anything. It's just I just don't feel comfortable yet. Like, I'm not in that space. I'm not impossible to find. And you can vouch, I'm not a bad looking dude. But, so that's kind of the idea, right? So the hope is that I can keep balls moving and just not overwhelm you. But the pricing on these things, I'm torn. I'm really, really freaking torn. As I do more and more work on this amp, and the giveaway amp, this is the level of quality that I'm looking to do on all of my builds. That is a 1/4 inch bar of aluminum. Those holes were all hand drilled. I countersunk each hole. So each one of these was countersunk and fitted specifically for the screws that I'm going to be using for this amp. And it was done in such a way that it was flush on each one of them. So there's not a different height for the screws on each hole. It's the same on all holes. That level of attention to detail has gone into this thing, right? The woodwork alone, just the amount of time that I have spent on this thing, I am going to breach 200 hours in total time. I already know it's going to breach 200 hours because at this point I've already gone over 140 or something like that. And we're not quite done yet. Now, a lot of that was some of the design portion of it. So obviously, as I do more and more of these, they'll get faster. But I think I started this project, 2 months ago, thereabouts. And here we are now coming up on month 3 before it'll be, distributable. Yeah, I mean, I said it before, it takes about 3 months for me to punch an amp out from front to back. Now, this one obviously includes some of the design aspect of it, as I just mentioned, but that obviously adds some time to it. I think with my own demises, whatever you want to call it, with an already proven design concept, all that jazz, I could probably shorten it down significantly. I think I could probably do it within a month, to be honest, because I won't be designing things. There will be less and less fudge ups because all the processes will be worked out exactly how it needs to be done to make those things happen. Some of these things I might even be able to outsource, like those bars. I can, literally just order them that way that I need them with the holes already in it, and then just do the countersinking so it's countersunk the way I want, et cetera, et cetera. Little things like that. Like this part right here, I had to hand cut that, file it, and fit it and stuff like that, right? I mean, that's something I can probably have made for a hell of a lot less time and energy than it cost me to make that. That's the hope. It's little things like that will get, purchased and outsourced enough that I can just get it and do it. Because objectively, I'm trying to get these builds down to about a month. If I can get it down to a month, I'd be happy. The amp itself is easy. Like I can do an amp in 3 to 4 days. Within a week, I can build just the amp and the chassis. That I can do. The cabinet right now is the hard part for me. Realistically, I mean, it takes 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe an hour tops to cut out all the CNC out all the bits for the cabinetry. Now that I have all the stuff done, less than a couple hours, I can have every chunk of wood, including all the veneers and everything, ready to go and put in the amp, right? So another couple days, probably doing glue up and doing the Tolexing and stuff like that. So those little things obviously just add time to it, but it would be nice to be able to get down to the 2-week mark, but I know that I can get it down to the 3 to 4 safely after a little bit more practice. But at the moment, I'm expecting 3 months of lead time on any build that I'm doing. I'm not ready to start selling anything yet, so that's not where I'm getting at with it, but pricing wise, just knowing how much energy it takes and how much it costs and raw costs, I get more and more frustrated every day because I found out there's another boutique amp company, I'm using my quotation fingers now, out there called Invaders. They're from Belgium or something like that, or Bulgaria. I think it's Belgium actually, and they're selling their amps for like $1,300 and up to like $2,500 or something like that. And I was just like, how the frig are they doing it? They're CE certified. Some of them have CA and EU certifications on them. Not all of them, but some of them. We have 2 normal ways of. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. That's kind of what my thought was more or less like raw parts and then, coming up with some percentage. Right now for me, the labor is the hard part. I know that for at least the manufacturing side of things, like you better have at least 50%. Well, I guess it would technically be 100%. Like you need to 2x the amount that it actually costs you to build it. So if your amp costs out the door cost, like everything, all the labor, all the parts, everything is $1,000. It better be marketed for $1,000 or $2,000, and that gives you enough to margin everything out. So some of that extra cost is obviously going to be for the wholesaler or your distributor or whatnot. So yeah, you end up making your 60% on it or whatever it is. For me, it's mostly the time that's actually eating me up. I mean, this amp, the giveaway amp, going back to that, I mean, $1,500 all in. Hey Randy, how's it going, dude? I see that you're in the chat. Well, and that's just it. I kind of made an assumption because I saw one of the pictures. They had a bunch of reels and stuff like that on their page, and I have a place that I'm going with this, but I made a post saying, this isn't boutique. I bet they're doing X, Y, and Z, and I don't see how they can sell it for this cheap unless they're doing X, Y, and Z. And then they shot back, and they were very cordial. You can tell that they have a good PR department or marketing department. They're like, well, actually, these are handmade. We don't do this, we don't do that, but we do use PCB, and everything is hand-wired and all this stuff. Randy, we're doing good, actually. It's been busy. My headache's starting to go away, so that's good. I took some Tylenol before I started this. Right at the beginning of the video, it's just right before I started kind of feeling a little malaise, I guess, if you will, but it's going away. Now that I've got half a drink in and I'm talking with people, I'm feeling a little bit better, so that's good. I'm glad you noticed I was live. I've been watching your videos. I saw the one recently of the Coleman that was misbehaving and he had to give it a spank, and now she's behaving. But yeah, so they shot back and they kind of gave me a fill in on things, but then I was still like, okay, it still doesn't make sense. Like, you must be paying your guys dick all then to work there. And like, you have to have some sort of outsourcing going on. Like, their chassis can't be made in-house. Their faceplates can't be made in-house. Obviously, their PCB boards aren't made in-house and stuff like that. So something has to be coming from somewhere else. Maybe they're hand stuffing the things. All amps, are hand wired. I don't care where it comes from. There isn't a machine yet that can hand wire the amp. Like, they don't make that. Maybe it can get the wires in there and ready for you to hook them up. But in terms of making all those connections to that part, all amps are hand wired. So saying an amp is hand wired doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Even Marshalls are hand wired. Even Black Stars are hand wired, etc., etc. It's just all the other stuff that goes into it. So I was still like, if they're selling an amp for $1,300 and it's CE certified, CE certification is what allows them to sell nationwide, or not nationwide, globally. That is not a cheap certification. You have to have an engineer on payroll to even make that happen. To have the ROHS, which I don't think they have ROHS certifications, but CE, CA, and EU like certifications, all that fun stuff. Like, you have an engineer on payroll. That's not cheap because that guy's not going to give out his credentials for nothing. So all those things, like, how the hell are you selling these things for that price? $1,300 for something, knowing that you have to be able to make it for $700. I'm calling bullshit. And I finally had to tell the guys, like, at what level are you not boutique anymore then? Because you're not boutique. I'm sorry. Like, you have a certification that costs probably as much as I make in a damn year just to create. And keep in mind, to put a CE certification on something, it has to be tested on that part. You can't just tack it onto all the parts that you got or all the amps and stuff. It has to be tested for each part. So you have to make multiples of every amp just for them to get destroyed. Yeah. Well, okay. So I know, one of my friends is an electrical engineer. His job is to basically get ROHS certification, the CE certificate, all those fun. His job is to get certifications. He does quality assurance and stuff like that. Yeah. $100K. Like, you literally, just the certification costs probably what I make in a year. Easily. So I don't buy it. If you're figuring 1,000 units, yeah, 100, yeah. Well, and that's just it. You got to move that kind of volume. So that's why I don't understand how the hell they can do it. Now I know over there in Europe it's a little more challenging, I guess. Like, even a small shop, they can't sell a lamp without having a CE certification. So if you're making lamps and you want to sell it to your neighbor, it better have a CE sticker on it, which means you better have paid the fees and all that fun stuff. But, right? I don't know. That's just my understanding of things. I might be a little off base with some of it, but it was just kind of disappointing because I'm tired of hearing the word boutique, knowing that you just literally have a company where somebody's like, man, I got a couple $1 million. Let's just throw it into this whole thing and make it work. And it probably costs more than a couple million, but you know what I mean. And then next thing you know, they're slapping out guitar rigs and saying they're boutique and selling it or worldwide. Yeah, it just pisses me off. Well, I don't know. So I know that a couple of the pictures I saw, they only had the CE cert on there. And then there was one I saw that had the CAEU cert. So I don't know how legit it really is. I just know that you have to have each and every product certified. You can't just slap it on all of them. And I know it costs money for each one because they have to go through physical destructive tests to get certified. So, I mean, imagine somebody like me making my amps at the level I do and sending them in to literally get thrown off a freaking building. Holy cow, I'd die. I'd cry. I would have to freaking cry. UL listing's kind of the same, right? But it's more American, I guess, for the UL listing. But like Dr. Z has UL listing, and he has gone through all the stuff to do that. But says, you know what I figure? The people that yap the loudest. Okay. Well, are you saying I'm yapping? But I don't know. It's just I kind of feel like for an American company, a USA company, Dr. Z is probably the end of the line for the best value you can possibly get. Like a close second might be Bad Cat. Yeah, we're drinking Foster's today. Gotta have that oil can. To do, yeah. No, I can manage it. Okay. Still, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money still. I mean, you have to have a good margin, right? The Peacemaker. Nasty. No, this is actually the good stuff. The blue can, not as good. You get the green can, the premium. Wait, where does it say it? It says it on there. Premium, right there. Premium. That's how you know it's good. That blue can, definitely not as good. But I don't know. I've slowed down on these a little bit. I've been more into bourbons lately, but I'm just teasing. I know you weren't talking about me. So, yeah, premium. This stuff isn't that bad. As far as cheap beers go, like what is it, $2.50 a can here where I live? So I mean, this is 24 ounces, so that's two. Yeah, this is two beers. It's for basically $2.50. Like I don't think it gets any better than that. Like that's the best bang for the buck. And it's not even percentage. Like I mean, it is a little bit higher. Don't get me wrong. Like I'll catch a buzz off of it, but 5.5. That's par for the course around here. So yeah, Angel Envy. Actually, hold on. Like that one. So yeah, I burned through this one. I didn't present this in any of my videos, but I'm a busy boy. Let me tell you what, because I only drink when I'm working, and I work all the time. I'm in the garage quite a bit. The wife freaking hates me right now. So, some people have kind of given me crap about the name, Peacekeeper. I had to come up with a name. Like, it was just, I had to make the faceplates first. So, it was like one of those things, like, your premium is 7%? Dang, they really want to get you guys fucked up over there. No wonder why you don't want none of this American crap. I'm shocked you guys don't let Everclear get through, right? Oh, your wine is only 7%? Oh, no, never mind. You can keep that shit then. No wonder why you guys make brandy then. Forget the wine. We just want the barrel so we can put our real stuff in it. um but yeah, we're a busy boy these days. As far as pricing goes, like just to kind of finish up on the Peacemaker name, but I needed to have a name, period. Like I needed to have a name. And I wanted to stick it in the country theme. It is kind of a country-ish amp, but oh my God, don't even say that word. I can't do Budweiser anymore. Ever since that Dylan Mulvaney thing, oh man, I was like, are you kidding me? That was their death knell. I can't believe they did that. I don't even know. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that's about what we're at here. Beer, though, that's up there. I mean, to get that, you got to get the hot HG stuff. The high gravity crap is what they call it here. So you're looking at like Steel Reserve or, like your Bud Ice and stuff. And what else? There's a couple others too, some of the high gravity stuff. But, oh my God, that Steel Reserve, I used to drink that when I was younger. Because that was literally the biggest bang. That was 8% or something like that. That crap, oh my, it's like drinking syrup. It's so disgusting. I'm glad getting older is not such a bad thing. I'm coming up on 46 this year, and I have got things dialed in. I've got a great job. I can do this kind of stuff for fun. I'm able to build an amp that realistically should cost a hell of a lot more money than I could probably demand for it. But, yeah, that 211 shit's got to go. That stuff's nasty. I drank it at one point just because it did the job, but, so yeah, I had to come up with a name for the damn thing though. And Peacemaker was the closest I could get. And I tried to put a vote out there for people to give me some, input on it, but not enough people really kind of got in. And even if there were only 10 votes, Peacemaker still won. And it was kind of the name I was going for anyway. It was better than like Bandito or something like that. I can't remember what some of the other names are at this point, but yeah, it was just, I had to pick a name. And I liked the Peacemaker because I could kind of turn it into like a gun or a gun. And I was just like, okay, that'll work. And then the first thing my friend says is like, dude, it looks a little phallic, don't you think? And then, of course, you look at it a little bit closer and you're like, oh, yeah, it does. You'll see it. Whoever wins it gets basically a hanger downer on their amp, even though they probably didn't want it. 13%? Oh, my God. What's that? Labatt's? I think I've had Labatt's before. That's basic stuff. Not Lingenfelders. What's the other stuff from up there? That blue stuff in a blue can or bluish colored can. Yeah, right. This damn thing. I can't remember. I think it starts with a B. It's not Bush, but I don't know. There's some other freaking beer from up there. Not Wolf something or other. I don't know. I've had a couple beers from Canada, but we don't get a lot of Canadian stuff down here. Like finding real maple syrup is really, really difficult. Unfortunately. So I don't think I've ever actually had real maple syrup in my life. Which is kind of sad when you think about it, because I do like waffles and I do like pancakes, but I cannot actually say that I've had real maple syrup from the maple syrup mafia from Canada. Oh, kokanee. That's what it was. The kokanee. But yeah, I've had the Labatt's Blue. But yeah, it was the kokanee is what I had. I mean, it's basically just light beer. I mean, it does the job, but, it is what it is. I'm an alcoholic, but I'm not like trying to, get to every corner of the world. I go through like little stages over the years. So obviously, when you're young and dumb and you've got like no money, you throw down on the MD 2020 because it was like literally the most amount of alcohol you could buy for $10 at the time, and you'd mix it with 7-Up, and then they call it the Mad Dog 2020 or something like that. The precursor to the bitch drinks is what we call them. You know, the Mott and, or what do they call them? The Barrel and James, or Bartles and James, or whatever the heck they call them. The little wine spritzers, or like those things. Back when I was a kid, oh joy. We've moved up in the world a lot. Now, I still drink cheap beer, but at least it's premium cheap beer. And I love Canadians. I would love to go to Canada just to check it out and get literally cooked to death. But yeah, Canadians are cool though. I'm not saying, I was just saying. So when I make during Christmas time, I love myself some eggnog. When I make eggnog, my favorite way to make it is with brandy. So I'll buy the best E&J that I can possibly get. So I'll go that route. But you know, if I'm gonna do beer, might as well be good beer. And this is pretty damn good. And this is Australian for beer, literally. Otherwise, we're sticking to the good stuff. The Kentucky Straight, bourbons. I love bourbons. If you ever want to get on my good side, send me some bourbon. So, yeah, I was never that bold or brave, but yeah, I definitely partook. I've been to a couple parties that I probably shouldn't have been to, but as far as pricing goes for my amps, it's starting to bite me in the butt a little bit because I don't see how some of these companies can do it. I was talking a little bit about Dr. Z and how he can charge like $1,300 on the low end for some of his stuff. And I think even his most expensive amp still not, I don't think it breaches $3 or $4,000. Maybe for his, you know, the Trainwreck style one that he's got, the Z-Rec or whatever. So I know that he put some work into it, and with the Z-Rec, I know he's at least kind of floating off of the whole Trainwreck fame and, you know, Brad Paisley or whatnot. I don't know how he can do it that cheap. Obviously, he has a lot of outsourcing going on, so he gets a discount, obviously, on the speakers and stuff like that from Celestion. He has a company that does his head shells. I can't remember the name of it, but I know he gets that outsourced. Which, God, if I could get my head shells made by someone else for even half of what it takes me to do it, I'd bounce on that all day, every day. But I'm so nitpicky about things and the level of, you know, perfection that I want out of them. It gets really, really difficult because I kid you not. I don't know how many holes, but there's a lot of freaking holes in these things, and each and every single one of these holes was hand fit to make it so that screw was flush. So that means I probably spent easily 10 minutes per hole. It took at least a couple hours to drill and, you know, do all that crap. So knowing that, going and selling my amp for $3,000 is that's a tall tale. Like, I mean, it cost me $1,500 just in raw parts to make it, to get it, to have the parts to do it. And then the time, like we're coming up on 200 hours. Even if I could cut it down to 100 hours, which I know I can probably do. I mean, what is my time worth? I mean, if I paid myself $25 an hour, like that's still not, I don't even know what the math on that is. So $2,500 just in labor. I can't imagine how, if it costs you $1,500 in labor or in parts, and you need to double that up to really make any margin on it. So you're up to $3,000, and then $2,500 in labor, you're up to $5,500. Might as well just fucking double it up and go $10,000. May as well. As a business model, that's probably where I should go. Is probably closer to 6,000 or 7,000, but I don't think anybody's gonna buy it for that price. We'll see. We're gonna try to get there slowly but surely. I have managed to get all the points talked about that I wanted. I don't know if we want to recap anything, but initially it kind of started off as a class, and objectively we were trying to talk about how to start your build. The preamp section is really not that important. Yes, it is the kind of the core of the sound of the amp, but the preamp section is the last thing you have to worry about. It's all about the output section. You need to have that figured out and dialed in, and you need to know what you're going to do there, because those are the most expensive parts. That's the reason why you got to figure it out first. And those are the parts that take up real estate on your chassis. So you need to know how much real estate you got. Like all those little things you have to know first before you even think about touching the preamp, because the preamp doesn't do a damn bit of good if all the other crap doesn't work out. And then, yes, I need to sweet talk Gwyneth Paltrow. We talked about this the other day about having a scent for my amplifiers. And I know that if I had Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina scented amplifiers, they'd freaking sell. Although it would probably do better if she was like 25 years younger. Now she's starting to get starting to look her age, actually. Just saying. I need Sydney Sweeney scented sauce. We'll call it sauce to put in my amps. That will sell. She's got good genes. Oh my God, I can't believe they made that kind of shit show out of that. Right? No, I'm not going to sell them for $100K, but one day maybe they'll be worth that much. No, I can't do $15K. I won't go that high. I can't believe that there are companies out there selling their crap that high though. That Valhalla company, I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but look up Valhalla Amplification. I don't know where they're from. I'm going to assume Sweden, but $15,000 for some of their amps, and they're using stock for like not AI, but they're literally taking the same photograph and like doing some Photoshop work on it, and putting it in on each of their amps, and they're just changing the faceplate. It's mind-boggling. I don't think they actually sell any amplifiers, and they show pictures of the work that they do inside of their amps. Holy hell. If any amp of mine ever looked like that coming out of the shop, I would absolutely flip a freaking lid. Cannot be done that way. And 15 grand? Fuck no. Absolutely no. That's highway robbery for sure. I don't care who's building it. Even if I was building it. I would love to get... I don't know. I try to be realistic with the pricing. And I had a gentleman hit me up one day. He's like, yeah, I want XYZ. He's like, I'm kind of looking at AC30. I was like, well, I have an 18-watt design that kind of fits in that mark. I also have a 30-watt design that I'm kind of completing, maybe in your realm. And then I told him, realistically speaking, we're looking at about $3,000 or so. And he just instantly was just like, well, yeah, there's an AC30 or AC15 or something that he was looking at. He said it's like $1,200. I was like, well, go get that, because if you want a pile of shit, then go get a pile of shit. $1,500. I mean, yeah, sure, that's great. It's cheap. To me, $1,500 is cheap these days. Because anything less than that is absolute cabbage, to be honest. But even like Marshall selling their amps for $3,800, $4,000 damn near. By the time you get tax and shipping in, you're easily over $4,000. But like 20 years ago, if Marshall had done what they're doing now, I'd be all over it. Take it. Like, that was a smart move. You can charge whatever amount of money you want, because they would have beaten everyone else at doing what everyone else has already done. Friedman, Ignator, like all kinds. Like, there's a countless number of companies that have done the modified Marshall and have blown every Marshall ever made out of the water in terms of overall sound quality and quality alone for about the same damn price as a Marshall. And then Marshall finally comes along 20 years too late and decides to do a modified version of itself and then sell it for more than all the other guys that are making the same damn thing. And it's just like, are you out of your freaking mind? Where were you 20 damn years ago? Welcome to the freaking party. It's a little bit late, though. Everybody's, Basically you're drinking the beer that was left on the counter at this point. So I think that's kind of where they're heading with it. I don't know how well it's selling, but I can't imagine that it's a hit, like a major hit anyway. I'm sure it's doing okay. Brand loyalty is a thing. I will say that. Brand loyalty is certainly a thing. It's crazy though when I'm looking at like some of the stats for my channel. Like I have 2,400 and something subscribers now. There are some amplifier companies out there that don't have that many subscribers on their official page, and it trips me out. But they have forums for that crap. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a Marshall forum. There is there's forums for these different amps out there. So it's crazy to me that, I don't know. My intention is to work towards, if I can get 10,000 subscribers, I'd be freaking surprised. I don't know that I'll ever get that much. At some point, I am going to have to create a separate channel that is more, fitting for the brand that I'm going with. So Legacy Amplification is the name of my amp company, if you will. The idea behind, or the ethos behind my amp company is, it is meant to be an amp you buy once and you keep forever, and you hand down to your your kid, and your kid hands it down to your grandson, etc., etc. Like, it's meant to be a lifetime amp. It's not something you just pick up because it's a freaking toy and you think it sounds cool. It's not meant to sound just cool. It's also meant to look cool and do all the things. While admittedly they are kind of focused things, they're pretty damn versatile. Their pedal all of my current lineup is very good at doing the pedal platform thing. You can stuff any pedal you want in front of it, and it's going to do what it's supposed to do. And then, if you want to get the actual amp to do that thing that you need it to do, it does its thing, and that's the thing. So I'm working on making amps that do the thing. It can do a thing, but it needs to do the thing. And I can't explain what that is for everybody. It's obviously, as with everything, it always evolves, because some days you just come out into the garage and you plug in the amp and you're like, I'm not feeling that one today. Luckily, I've got 3 others that I just built, so we'll plug in the other one. I have a 30-watt design that I've been kicking around for a year and a half now. It's great. There's nothing wrong with it. 9 out of 10 companies would have just spat it out and said it's good, and that would have been the end of it. It does a thing, but it doesn't do the thing. And that's the thing about it is, it's cool. It does a really cool thing. But then I play it and it's just like, well, I've got this other amp that does basically the same thing. I don't need 2 amps to do the same thing. I need it to do the thing. It's just kind of odd because the 30-watt amp, even though it's the one I'm the least happy with, it's the one I showed here on this channel when I was doing the pedal expose or whatever. It was that amp that was sitting right here. You heard it. It sounds great. There's nothing wrong with it, but it does a really cool thing. But it still, for me, isn't just doing it. It's just not there yet. So we're still working that out. Most of my other amps are pretty much done. I kind of feel like I have the Atlas, the one, you still haven't seen it yet. You will see it. I need to make a head shell for it. That's my next project, is to get a head shell done for that. That thing I think it's done. I was testing it today, and I decided to put a 12AT7 in the phase inverter section of it just to kind of see how it would work. And it sounds great even with that. So it doesn't matter what you use in the phase inverter, it does a thing. And then, of course, the amp itself does the thing. Very chewy, very fun to play. It's got a nice raunch to it. I love it that way. So there's a lot that goes into this, and how do I explain it? I want you guys to know that everything I have is going into building these things. It's no corners are cut in any way, shape, or form. Not this giveaway amp, not any of the amps that I build. There is no corners being cut, period. It is 100% of what I am able to do goes into them. And if I'm not happy with it, it's not going out the door. I have 2 amps that just happen. I I'm going to say 2 amps that I'm literally just blown away by that have come out of my shop right now. My 18 watt, I don't know what it is about that thing. It just slays. Like it does all the freaking things. Every time I play it, I'm just blown away by it. It does the thing. Interestingly enough, this build right here that we're working on, the giveaway amp, the Peacemaker, it does the freaking thing. I don't know how, I don't know why, but it's just so fun to play. You start playing it, you don't want to stop. I just don't know how to explain how I managed to get it right. It's obviously kind of borrowed technology, if you will. It's not like I reinvented the wheel or anything like that, but it just does the thing. And that's what I think makes it really cool. And the way it's turning out right now is just stellar. You guys haven't gotten to see it yet, but I've gotten to see it with the amp because I have the amp back in my possession now. No, Team YDNA did not have it. And, I've gotten to put it in the cabinet and I've gotten to put all the stuff in it and kind of see all the fitment and all that fun stuff. And it's just like, damn, this thing is going to be so nice. It is going to blow anything you've ever seen out of the water in terms of just the build quality, the looks, all that fun stuff, right? I think when you play it, you're going to feel the same way. Now, yes, it is still a 5E3 at heart. So, no, it's not, it's not a diesel VH4 and a Fender, Blues Deluxe and, a Vox AC. It's not all of that built into one. It's still a 5E3 kind of thing. It's just a really fun 5E3. It doesn't do that fuzzy, zippery thing that the originals do. To me, it doesn't, that's not an appealing part of them. It doesn't fart out. It just sounds like a really nice, refined 5E3. I don't know how to explain it. You can push it with a pedal to get it a little bit further than it naturally goes, or you can just dime it all the way up. Whatever it is the hell you want to do with it. It is still designed to be ran full blast. Like that's essentially how it's lived since it's been built, is at full blast. There are no signs of it giving up the ghost at this point in time. So it has been well sorted at this point. That's the idea. All my amps designs are done in such a manner where they are stress test, I guess, if you will. So I literally find a way to abuse the hell out of them. I have a Torpedo Captor X, which of course allows me to plug it in and run it all the way up, and check to make sure stability, see, how things are going with the tubes. So I turn out all the lights and I can see if the screen grids are starting to glow. I can see, how the blue glow changes when you strum chords. All those little things. I spend the time to work all that kind of stuff out and make adjustments to make sure that, the thing is going to be stable and it's not going to, be on the edge of blowing up every time you plug it in. That's the idea. So there's a lot of effort and energy that goes into these things to make sure that you're getting the best, absolute best product that you possibly can. And then the cabinet right now, that's where all of my energy goes towards in terms of like testing my skill set, I guess, if you will. I don't have a problem with working with wood. My history is in metalworks. So I used to be a sheet metal worker when I was younger. It was one of my first jobs, in fact. So, working with metal, I'm good with that. Like that part makes sense. Yada, yada, yada. Wood, I love wood. It's easy enough to work with. It's just unforgiving. If you look at it funny, it dents. If you sand it wrong, it does that. All these like little things kind of come into play. And working with wood is kind of a pain in the ass. And it's really, really difficult to make it look perfect. And I'm going to tell you right now, even this thing, as much energy as I put in, it's still not going to be perfect. It's going to look like it was handmade. And that's okay. It's still not, I don't know, if I could send it out the door perfect, I would. But I know that it's not possible. I mean, that shell has been moved around my shop for 2 months now. It's amazing I haven't bumped it on something yet that I shouldn't have. I've had these done now for about a week. It's amazing. And I'm sure there's a scratch on there. I touched them up the other day when I finished up the things, but they're bound to get another scratch in there that wasn't intended. And then how do I fix the scratch once it's put together? Because once it's put together, you can't really scuff anything up because the amp has to be in the chassis in order to put some of these pieces in there. So a lot of these little things all come together. It's just, So, John, how you doing, man? I seen you've been still posting some videos. How are you liking that MD421? Let's hear about that a little bit. Talk to me, baby. Talk to me. And I'm out of freaking beer, damn it. I might have to walk away for a second and go absolve that problem, because that is a problem, because I'm breaking my number one rule. So tell you what, here's how it's going to go. There's 7 of you now. I hope there's 7 of you when I get back. I'm literally going to be gone 30 seconds. Team YDNA is going to tell us about how much he loves that 421. I'll be right back, okay? Perfect timing. Your post just popped up on my thing. You need a small... So, I'm going to be honest with you right now. The C2, the Behringer C2, is very difficult to beat for the price, because you buy 2 of them basically for the price of 1. As far as a small diaphragm condenser goes, it does the biz. So, just buy a Behringer C2 set or pair or whatever that is, the small little pencil ones, about the size of your index finger. Those things do great. I use them all the time for that. I usually end up using them for hi-hats or just some sort of like area mic, if you will, but I'd love to get some MD421s. It's just not practical. I'm usually trying to get things a little bit tighter in terms of like space usage. So lately I've been using the Lewitt, what do they call it? LCT 240 or something like that. I believe that's what it's called. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dan. I appreciate that. The SM57, honestly, you can't go wrong with it. It's the standard for a reason, but I don't know. I've gotten bored of it, to be honest. It has a coloration, and it's not that it's bad. It's just it has a thing that it does, right? And it's worked for so many years. That's not the problem. It's just I think kind of people are looking for that clarity these days and some of that punch. And there's something about a large diaphragm condenser that really gets it there. And it just has a little more versatility. So this Lewitt, I believe it's the LC 240 or LT. It's whatever their 240. It's their cheaper one. It's like $99. Like as an entry level large diaphragm condenser goes, it's really hard to beat for guitar. I didn't really like it on vocals. I tried using it for like one of my streams, and it works. It works really good, but it just does really, really good on guitar. For overheads and vocals, I really like using the if you can afford it, the AKG. I use the C214s. So it doesn't have all the polar patterns and all the other stuff. So it's like a $400 mic versus a $1,000 mic, right? That's great. But I own a couple of those, and those I use for overheads on drums, or I use them on guitar. There you go. Let's go. So, just saying, like, having an arsenal is nice. What I can tell you is that for me, this is a me thing, but I don't really like the sound of a guitar amp close mic'd. And this is coming from a live sound engineer. And as a live sound engineer, you don't really get much of a choice. Like, you're always sticking an SM57 or something like that right up on the speaker grill. you got no choice. Like, it's the only way around it. Because if you create any kind of distance between the mic and the speaker, you start introducing all the other crap on that stage into it, right? Perception 200, that's a great mic. I've used those before in the past. Yeah, I mean, any kind of large diaphragm microphone is going to do just fine. Like, it's going to be better than an SM57. And you'll notice, I think, that moving it around, even just a little bit, you get a little more variation. It's more sensitive to the change, I guess, if you will. An SM57, like, you kind of have to give it more range of motion. And thank you all for sticking around. There were 7 when I went to go get my beer, and there were 7 when I came back. Yes, let's go. So, that range of motion, it just seems to be that it takes a larger change for anything measurable to come out of it. SM57s, they have kind of that proximity effect thing that they have going for them. It works great because they're pretty thin, but it makes it a little bit touchier, I feel, whereas larger diaphragms seem to have a smoother transition from being on to off the grill. Whereas an SM57 it's a little more abrupt, like it doesn't do much, and then it's like really hard to like fine tune it. Yeah, like literally you can do that. I don't mind the sound of the room coming in. I mean, 6 feet might be a little extreme, but you're looking for the point where it sounds the best, right? It doesn't really matter what it is, where it sounds the best. I mean, it might be 1 foot off and it might be 10 feet off. Especially if you're going to use multiple mics, right? So, yeah, don't point. Let's say you have your direct mic, like the one that's, right on the speaker grill. And then you have the other one that's in the room. There is a general rule of thumb, but I think it kind of only works like in the first couple generations. So they talk about that 1 to 3 rule. So if you're 1 inch off the grill with mic 1, you should be 3 inches off the grill with mic 2, right? And it has to do with the way that wavelengths work, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that means if mic 1 is 2 inches off, you need to be 6 inches off with the other one. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, 6 inches off with the other one, right? Or whatever 3x might be. So those type things, right? The 3 to 1 rule. Where it starts to break down is when I talked about it in another live, the critical distance. So let's put pen to paper. So imagine this piece of paper is your room. And we're going to call this your source. This little black dot, that's your source. So this is a big room in relation to this source. Most sound sources, you need to treat it as if it is a point source, right? So all the noise that you hear emanates off of this thing in all different directions. So if you have a mic here, right? So we'll put a little thing there, and you have a mic here, that's a pretty large distance, but there's a tangent there. But there's a point where none of the frequencies are going to overlap, and the time distance between these things, because sound travels at 1152 feet or something a second at sea level, so a little bit slower as you go higher up, but roughly, right? So there's a point where the time difference between them, the coefficient, just doesn't matter anymore, right? Well, let's just say that there's a wall right here. Well, that means that this sound source is going to come over to this wall, and it's going to bounce off of it and go right into that microphone, right? So you got this sound source that comes in, and it bounces off the wall into the microphone. But then you also have the direct source of the sound. The reflection is almost identical in tangent to the direct sound. Almost. And that will cause a cancellation. But what often will happen is that you're so far away that you can't determine if this is the direct sound here or if this is the direct sound. So that's what they call the critical distance, where you cannot determine if this is the source of the sound this is the source of the sound that you heard. But they still interact at this point the same, and they still have some sort of interaction, and they call it destructive interference. There's some sound engineering 101. I don't mind the mic talk too. I love it too. So as far as microphones go, as long as it sounds good, it is good. When you can start to hear the time delay, that's when you start having the problem. So you hear it kind of as latency. It almost sounds like a really sharp echo. You start getting to, like the Haas effect, where it's like 5 milliseconds to 10 milliseconds or something like that. It's like you can kind of hear this distance and opening up of the sound, like it goes from closed in to kind of open and big. And then you start to hear the actual like time delay. Like you can hear one just before the other. Well, as you get further and further away, it breaks down a little bit more to the point where you can actually distinguish this one from that one. Well, at some point, you're going to get so far away that you can no longer distinguish which one of these two came at you first. And that's the critical distance. And that's where it doesn't matter where you put the mic anymore. And it doesn't take all that much space, believe it or not. A lot of it comes down to the RT60 of the room that you're in. RT60 is a measurement that they do to figure out like the decay time for any source to stop reverberating and bouncing around the room. Obviously, the lower the RT60, the less noise the room will have, which means you can clap your hands and it just sounds like somebody clapped their hands. You don't hear any or any, like multiples of it, right? All those little things come into effect. That's why doing arena shows are such a pain in the ass, because it's actually called floor bounce. So the main PA is up in the air, right? So if you can imagine, you're at a concert, this is ground level, and then you got your hang over here, and you got your hang over here. Well, the sound's coming down at the floor, and when it comes down to the floor, it'll bounce back up. Well, at head level, that might be enough. I mean, most people are right around 5 to 6 feet tall, so 5 to 6 feet has some effect, and it makes a difference because the tangent is enough that the Haas effect starts to play in, and then you can still get destructive interference. So floor bounce is a thing. All kinds of different stuff comes into effect. Heat has an effect on things as well. So, depending on how your house is heated, if you got heated floors, obviously the heat's going to rise. So if this is your floor, the heat's going to rise up, which means a sound that's coming across it like this is actually going to start to float upwards. So sound will start to rise. So if you put a mic out in the deep part of the room, in a room that has a heated floor, that can even have an effect on things. So all kinds of physics come into this kind of crap. Yeah, and rooms that do that are assholes. There is nothing about doing sound that is not a compromise. Everything, I am literally 100% of everything you do in audio is a compromise. The best way and the way that you end up doing it are two different things. You're just trying to find the best compromise between what is ideal and perfect versus what you can actually do. That's it. 100%, that's it. As much as everybody wants to say that they got God's ears and they can do anything they want with it, you're still bound by physics. Cold to hot, no, it changes in speed, if you will, but it has an effect over frequency. So cold air is a little more dense. So cold air is denser, and because it's denser, it actually slows down high frequency. It absorbs more of the high frequency energy. So you need more high frequency output in order to overcome that at an X distance, right? Hot air, same, right? Low frequencies tend to not be as bothered by stuff as much in terms of temperature and distance and all that jazz. To a degree, it's boundaries that really mess with low frequency stuff. That's why putting two subs together, you get a little more thump and bump, right? And it's not because you actually get more thump and bump. It's just that when you generally have a sub here and a sub here, you have that same energy here, but you have cancellations in the thirds, right? So here and here, you got a sub. In the middle, it's pounding away, but in the thirds, you have a lower amount of energy, and it has to do with how it cancels. But if you take those subs and you put them out together from out here and you put them together, you still have all that energy in the middle, but it's a little more even as it flows out. That has its own caveats and stuff too, because now you've taken all that energy and placed it right in front of the middle of the stage. So now there's no dead spots on the stage. So there's all kinds of things that come into play. That's why they have cardioid subarrays and stuff like that. I play with those quite a bit still. Cardioid subarrays. Cardioid subarrays. They're fun to play with because people are blown away by the fact that they can walk out front of it and they get pounded to death. But on the stage, they're just kind of like, dude, it's like it's not even on at all. If you don't want to buy Behringer, what are they called? Is it the V7 or S7? Oh, fuck. Now I can't remember. Hold on, let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm going to do some searching here. The VE7? What is it? Or is it V7 microphone? SE Electronics. That's what I was searching for, was the word. SE Electronics makes some SDCs, and they also make some LDCs as well. But so getting the bass out, I like getting, if I can get an LDC, large diaphragm condenser, with a low cut switch, which is why I like the AKG C214s. They do have that built in. That is very helpful because they do still have the proximity effect, but you can still use distance if you don't mind having a little bit of room involved. SE7, SE8, yeah. So SE Electronics I think they're kind of up and coming. They're not, I don't know, they're still not commonplace yet, but they're up and coming for sure. Lewitt is doing a lot of stuff lately, and I think Lewitt is kind of more known for their drum mics and stuff like that, but of the stuff that I have used of theirs, I'm actually quite impressed with it. It's still kind of more budget friendly, if you will, for most of their lineup, but it's a lot like the SE lineup where it's still pretty affordable for the most part. Yeah, I don't know. I've tried that route. Behringer. Behringer's about as good as it comes in terms of reverse engineering things. Like literally, like it's hard to beat Behringer. So, I mean, if you're gonna go with a small diaphragm, I think yeah, you can spend money on the Rode like NT5 or whatever the hell it is, but those are pretty pricey for what they are. And the C2 is kind of in that range. Sennheiser, I'm not as much of a friend of, or I'm not as fond of, I should say. Yeah, I don't like the green thing either, but yeah, I don't know. It sounds pretty dang good though. For what the price is, it's hard to beat. AKG, I'm a fan of AKG for most of their stuff. So, it's hard to beat AKG in terms of price to quality. They just do their thing. Another mic that I use is the S20? No, whatever their 20 is, their 20 series. 2020? I think it's the 2020. It's their large diaphragm condenser microphone. It's entry level. I think it's like $99. The same as like the Lewitt, but it's honestly a very good large diaphragm condenser microphone. Problem is, it's also pretty big. Not quite as big as an oil can here, but it's in that range. Yeah, right. I wish I could make it, but hey, man, thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that for coming in and hanging out with us. I appreciate that. So, have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you again soon. Are you saying I'm yapping again, Randy? I don't. I run on quite a bit. I know that, but I'm working on it. I'm trying to work on it. I don't know. Still working on my persona. Okay. I want to find the cheapest mic I can find just as much as the next guy. It's just when you use like a real, and I've gotten to use a lot of these nice high dollar microphones and stuff, the Newmans and, Countrymen's and like the real deal stuff that is on the high end of most people's A-list stuff. They just do the thing, right? Like they're the Earthworks drum mic kit. Like it's a $2,000 or $3,000 kit for a reason. It just does what it's supposed to do. The closest I've been able to find to that for a good price is the Mic Tech amp kit or mic kits that are out there. Mic Tech is made, I believe, in Tennessee, so it's a USA company. It's not the highest quality mics out there, but as a drum mic kit that's like $1,200, it's really hard to beat. Like I don't think you could build a better kit than that one is as it comes. I am just teasing. I know you're teasing with me, but yeah, drop the Neumann money if you got it, man. I can tell you right now that there are the is it the TL103 that they have, the small, short, fat one. That's more popular now because nobody can afford the freaking U87 or whatever the heck it is. There are copies of that, obviously. Having a ribbon mic obviously would be nice. If you can afford a real Royer, good on you. I have a friend that bought a Royer. He doesn't get to use it much. I might hit him up to pick one up because it is the Royer that everybody wants, the 121 or whatever the hell it is. But they all have like their niche thing that they do. Like they do that thing that they're known for a reason. So if you can find a cheaper version, I think SC Electronics has a couple ribbon mics. I might be mistaken. I think it's SC Electronics, though, that makes like a version. They're not as good as the real deal. What was it? This band I did, I got to do this thing once at like a Christian college near me one time. And it was a really neat experience. It was a bluegrass group. And I was expecting to mic everything all the way, like everything. Well, they're not that delicate. These days, it's not that much of a problem. Back in the days of yore, yeah, they were a little insensitive, if you will. These days, you can get the gain you need out of it without having to, use cloud burst or whatever that freaking cloud boost thing that they make for like the SM7B. Like, you don't have to have all that shit. Like, the modern stuff will take care of it. But I don't know. And they're only sensitive if you beat up on them. Are they tour ready? Probably not. But for a studio where it's literally coming out of the case, getting gently put on the stand, placed in front of the rig, and then put back in its case when it's done, I wouldn't worry about it that much. I definitely wouldn't be doing any bar gigs with it, especially like a real Royer 121 or something like that, $1,000 mic or more. I wouldn't be dragging that to my club gig that I'm only getting paid $25 for sure. But, you just kind of got to find something. But I was doing the sound for this bluegrass band, and, they handed me the mic that they wanted to use. And it was one of those ones that looked kind of like retro, like steampunk kind of, like it was handmade, obviously. And it had like the brass, and it was all drilled out in copper, and it had the handmade, screen thing. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, but whatever. It was other freaking worldly. Let me just say it like that. There's nothing quite like having a group of people that have been doing something that way for so long and having it figured out so well. No monitors. They didn't want any monitors. So we just put one mic up in front of this group of people that were around in a circle, and they just played. And it sounded so glorious. For one freaking mic, it sounded so glorious. And when they needed to do a solo, the guy would just walk up 2 steps. They literally just boop, boop, walk up 2 steps closer to the mic, and it was just like, pop, there he was, that 6 dB that you needed, or that plus 3 dB, whatever it was that you needed, it was there. And then when they were done, they took 2 steps back in line with everyone else. It was glorious. It was so much fun to do that. I tried to record it. I might try to find it again. It was actually really, really cool. I appreciate that kind of stuff. I started with nothing and wanted everything, and I want to mic everything. I want to have 100 mics on the drums. I want to do this. I want to do that. Got to a place where I could do all that crap, And then once you learn about all the physics of it and all that crap, you're just like, oh, this, it's honestly less is freaking more. The less you have, the purer the sound will be. The less interaction you're going to have with all the different parts, and the more realistic it's going to sound. And that's how you get the freaking, Steely Dan freaking Aha sound, or Aja, or whatever the frick that album's called. But that's how you get that sound, is by having everything so isolated. And so that one's a little too direct. I mean, it's a pretty dry sounding album, but it sounds good because of how well it was mixed together. But you get what I mean. Just when you can get things so isolated that there is no interaction, there's so much more you can do. So much more you can do. Some of the best recordings I have came out of the least number of microphones I've ever used. I got to do sound for this band called Jonas Day years and years ago. Amazing freaking group of people. I don't know if they're still doing their thing. I think they kind of broke up. I'm literally going back 15, 20 years at this point, but their name was Jonas Day. And we were doing sound for the mayor of Redondo Beach at the time with this act. And they wanted to record it, obviously, because it's a pretty big deal. But we only had 8 channels of recording ability at the time. I was using Digio 2, and the Digio 2 was at that point in time I had only the 8 inputs that it had. So I was bouncing tracks down into the 8. So we had 16 inputs. We used every input that I had on my mixer at the time. And we bounced them all down into 8. And that recording turned out freaking amazeballs. It's all live. It's a live recording. There's, you can hear the monitors start to ring on occasion, but it just did the thing. And it was 8 channels. 8 freaking channels. It sounded amazeballs. So you can do it. There's no excuse anymore these days. Like, it's just no excuse. And then you can get AI to do half the freaking work for you too. Obviously, there's a lot of people starting to use the AI tools that are coming about. I don't use AI. I don't see any value in it myself, but I guess I'm old school in that regard though too. I started doing sound back in the, ye old analog days. At least it was still predominantly analog. Digital in terms of live audio was just like, it was still burgeoning, I guess is the term for it. It wasn't until probably 5 years to 7 years into my tenure that, digital became like readily available. And the first viably, available mixer, I guess, that you could get that was digital was the LS9, the Yamaha LS9. And at the time, that was a $12,000 mixer. I ended up picking one up, probably about 10 years into my stuff. It was after that point, I was just like, I knew that digital was the way of the future, but I picked one of those up. And then, of course, a few years later, Behringer comes out with the X32, and the rest is history at this point. Okay, 7184. Yeah, the killer freaking mic. And the SE8 is killer too. Any kind of, so small diaphragm SDCs, we'll call it SDCs. SDCs are great for acoustic because they are technically, so here's an interesting factoid. Small diaphragm condenser mics, SDCs, are actually more sensitive and more accurate than a large diaphragm. Interestingly enough. And it has to do because of the size of the element. It's not as impacted by the frequency, right? Because a 1-inch element on some of these things, or maybe they're 3/4 or whatever for an LDC, but usually around 1 inch or so. Excuse me. That is actually wide enough for frequencies to have an impact on the element. So when you start getting down to a 1/2 inch or a dime-sized element, it's less impacted by all that. And the low frequency doesn't affect it as much either. So, gentlemen, I need to use the restroom. I'll be right back. Give me like 2 minutes. Hold on. back jaw was floating there. Well, thank you guys for sticking around. All right. So, oh, yeah, that's interesting factoid. So, just so you know, if you really want the most like finite detail, get yourself an SDC. And it really doesn't matter. Like, honest to God, if you're not into Behringer, that's cool. But the C2, I think it's what, $100 for a pair of them or something like that, or $80 or something for a pair. I can't even remember now. But I've gone through 2 sets of them. I bought one back when they first came out. I think it was only $50 for the pair. It was insane at the time. And I don't know what happened, but one of them took a shit, and I decided to try to fix that one. It was just dust, period. It was just dust. And then I got into the other one to just see kind of how it worked and left it broken. So then I bought another set, yeah, that's what it was. So I one got broken by accident, and the other one I broke on purpose. It was non-incidental. What it was, I remember now. The first one, I used them for drums as overheads, and one of the guys tagged it with his freaking stick, and it took the freaking little element thing off the top and just fucked up the diaphragm, so it quit working. And then the other one, I wanted to see what made him tick, and then while I was in there, I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna buy another pair, and pulled them out. No. Dynamic microphones like the SM57 and 421s, 421 especially, it's a pretty dense sounding microphone. Works great on drums because it does well with the attack, and you know, the fullness and all that. It does really nice on that, but it's also a loud acoustic instrument. Yeah, you need a lot of gain, and then you get the hiss with it that comes up on the floor from it. So, honest to God, like, dynamic microphones are really, really difficult to use for more sensitive things like acoustic guitars. It's not that it can't be. There's no excuse to not be able to get a sound from it. It just might not be the sound that you're looking for. That's literally it. I mean, what is the application? If you want your guitar to have that sound, you know, of a muted, kind of distant, you know, low level acoustic, then yeah, an SM57 will work great. You can use an SM57 for overheads. You can use them for hi-hats. You can use them on anything. You can use it on a kick even, and it's going to work. You can make any mic work. It's just how much work are you willing to put in for it. I find that the best thing, because I try to get the sound right from the source. When I say sound right from the source, I mean that I try to get the sound that I want captured at the moment that I'm hitting the record button. Not necessarily this is the sound I want and I'm going to force this thing to do it that way. So if you need to have that boxy like radio sound that's baked in, you don't record it with the highest fidelity microphone that you possibly have, where it sounds crystalline clear and very, very natural and real. You use something that makes it sound like you want it to actually sound when you're done. I find that to be the easiest way to get from point A to point B, is to whatever the sound it is that you're looking for in the end is how you record it, period. So if you have to use a 99-cent mic from the 99-cent store to get that sound, then that is the way to do it. And interestingly enough, there are people out there that pull that off. I don't have any examples off the top of my head that were done with cheap shit like that, but it can be done, obviously. I mean, Trent Reznor with freaking 9 Inch Nails, he uses an SM57 for freaking everything. It worked for him, so it can be done. I'm interested in the Mini, the 421 Mini, but my recollection from the videos that I saw of it, that it does not sound anything like the original. Not nearly as thick and dense or full, I guess. Rounded, whatever you want to call it. It's hard to explain, but a 421 on a guitar cab, it just kind of does that thing. Like, it's unique. But You guys, it's getting kind of late. It's almost, well, it's 8:45. I've been doing this now for 2 hours and 15 minutes. There's only 4 of you right now. I don't know if you have any other questions. I've gotten through all of the sticking points. Super scooped. I don't doubt it. So there's the mid-range punch just isn't there. I like the rectum fryer. I've worked with rectifier, the dual Rex before, triple Rex. I always thought they sounded pretty good. Some of them just sounded too ballsy. Some of that might be how they were running the cabinet, though. I know that literally setting the cabinet down on the ground makes a lot of the woof come out. We talked about this before a little bit. Whereas having it up on even just the wheels can kind of help a lot, taking some of the woof out of it. Most of the time, I find that they're just too woolly and woofy. Not that they're loose and spongy and this or that, or just like, yeah, they sound cool. I like the way that they design like the crunch into them. But so you got the burpees. But it's just, I think a lot of it has to do with the cab that they're using, and then how they're using it in the space that they're in. If you're on hardwood floors and you're setting the cab on its side, or you don't use the wheels and you just set it literally on the ground, that causes a lot of the woof to come up. And it took me a while to learn that if you get too much woof when it's on the ground, that just move the mic up to the top speaker. Rectum fryer, right? I use that term a lot too. I don't know. They sound pretty cool though. I remember, so this was early 2000s. I want to say actually 2000, maybe 2001. I was amp shopping, and we're going to talk about the Blue Voodoo, or the Blue Doo amplifier again. But I went, the Marshall JCM 800 was on its first real reissue, second maybe reissue at the time. But they still made it. It was still available. And the JCM 900 was kind of in its heyday. Oh, yeah. I'm not really up to speed with all that. Just so you know, Mr. John. I am not up to speed on what went down exactly and how and why. I've stayed out of it for the most part. I don't like the back and forth banter, I guess, in that regard, like the attacks on both sides. I've heard and seen of it a little bit. To me, it's just kind of, I don't know. I don't know who threw the first blow. I don't know who threw the egg, and I don't need to know. I don't want to get into it. It's not my business. It's not my problem, I guess. And I hope that maybe it works itself out. It probably won't. But for me, I don't know. I don't like conflict. I'm conflict adverse. So I generally try to use words that will deflate a problem before it gets to that point. How do you explain it? How do you explain it? I don't know how to explain it. Like, Andy is already a polarizing character. Like, I think everybody should know that kind of going in, right? Like, he's a polarizing character. So you either get with him or you don't. And then he himself is pretty steadfast in his ways, right? So you kind of have to understand that. And for me, I understand that, so I know how to work around it, I guess. I can get it. Like, I can get it. I dig it. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I could talk to people the way he does and be as honest and upfront about some of my feelings that way. For the most part, if it's not worth the battle, then I don't care to win the war, right? If it's worth the battle, then I'm going to fight to win the war, right? If I'm upset and there's a point where I need to, like, literally scorched earth level, I will go there, and you'll know, and there will be no doubt, and it'll be over as quick as it started, because there will be no going back. There will be no takesies backsies. There's no returning. I'm literally going to drop the freaking nuke. that is one of my problems. I am type A passive aggressive, and I've gotten to a point in my days that it just goes, period. And I don't give the fucks anymore. I stay away from that. I'm conflict adverse. So I will usually skate around it and, choose my words wisely because I don't want it to go there, and I don't feel a need for it to go there. I do not know the story exactly between all of them, all of you guys. So I want you to know I don't hold any great ill feelings. I don't understand enough of it to get feelings from it. But as long as I don't get pulled into the bullshit, I don't give a fuck. As soon as my name starts getting smeared, then yeah, I'm going to be a little upset, I guess. But just know I don't, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm not here to attack anybody. So it's not my job. It's not my place right now. And I'm not, it's just not it's not my thing. I don't do that. Now, Andy, I wish he was maybe not as outspoken as he was. I think that might save him a little bit of headache. But then at the same time, I have a theory of my own, and it's one because I'm easy to pick on. I'm a goofy guy, and I talk too much, so I'm easy to freaking pick on. And we've gone way off topic, but you know what I mean. But so I found a way in my youth to find out who my friends are, and it's basically, if you want to know who your friend is, piss them off and see what they do. A true friend will roll with the punches. He'll snap at you. He'll correct. He'll do whatever he feels he needs to do, but he will still interact with you. He will still, find a way to move forward with you, right? And that's how I know that's a true friend. And it's not that I purposely go out of my way to try to piss somebody off. That's not what I mean by that. I mean, it's just if you do something and it pisses them off to that degree and they instantly drop you like a bad habit or something, obviously they were not much of a friend to begin with to you. Everybody has a ride or die friend, period. Everybody should have a ride or die friend. And I try to have as many of those as I can because you just never know when that time is going to come. And not everybody excels at the same thing that you do, and not everybody excels at the same thing everyone else does. So if you can have 5 ride or die friends, it's great because there's nothing you cannot achieve when you're in a shit show and you're like, dude, I need XYZ. And they're just, at the drop of a dime, they're like, gotcha, bro. Hold on. Hold my beer. And they're there. They do it, right? So I try to go at it from that angle. Enemies don't do people any good, and I don't want to have any enemies. So when it comes to other people's abrasions and stuff like that, I kind of, not to downplay it, but it's not my problem, and I don't need to deal with it. It's not for me to deal with. So I maintain a level of neutrality. It's, if you have something you need to say to him, call him up. I'm sure he will talk to you. And, adults have words. There's things that they can say to each other that they can meet in the middle with every time. And I know that they can. Where it tends to break apart is when you get into the ego game and you start butting heads, and it's always, everybody's pushing to see who's gonna fall down first. That I try to stay out of. When I see it going that way, I don't bother trying to one up. I will drop the fucking hammer. So that's why I don't do it. So that's all there is to it. I still watch Andy's channel. I love what he's got going on. I have tried doing other lives and just kind of seeing what other people are doing, and it's not it's unremarkable. Let's just say that there's nobody else doing anything that's better than what he's got going on right now that kind of sticks within this genre of what we're talking about here. I'm boring as all freaking hell. I'm pretty hard to hate unless you hate talking hands and listening to my voice. If you can get over those two things, I'm pretty sane. Like I'm right up the middle, right? So I have tried like going and seeing like other lives, and most of them are just kind of the same. Everyone has a fucking troll on their freaking channel. Everybody's a freaking troll. And there's been many that I've come across with a guys doing exactly the same thing all day, which is fighting off trolls. And obviously, everybody, a polarizing person or polarizing people, always have people that are going to lean that direction with them, right? Because they get it, they understand it. I feel like I'm one of those types of people that if I gel with you at all, I'm one of those. I'll just gel along. But you know what I mean? Like, I like those lantern videos, and I watch those because when I was a kid, I went camping a lot, and lanterns were the things. Dealing with the mantle and then learning what it's made out of and how it freaking can burn like that, like brighter than the sun for Lord knows how many damn hours that it can do it for. It's like, what? Blows my mind how simple those freaking things really are, and they do what they do. And I don't know, it's just stuff like that's interesting to me. I love motorcycles, so I don't give a fuck who you are, what channel you are. You talk about motorcycles, you've caught my interest. 49 Teeth and whatnot, like Fortnite, I watch all those freaking things. Like, I watch anything that's related to motorcycles. So things that tickle my interest or my feelers, I'm in. So as soon as oh yeah, radio and pinball. See, and I like pinball too. There's no excuse, damn it. Like, how do you, John, come on, man. I've noticed that you do the dark video thing. Like, I thought for a minute there you were trying to do like the what is that guy that does videos in the dark, or what is it called? Audio in the dark or something like that, or music in the dark. It's the guy, he plays literally in a dark room and he talks kind of low and slow and just plays music and whatnot. In your case, I kind of thought that's the vibe you were going for. Just get a freaking bedroom lamp. I am using, I'm in the garage. I'm in my garage right now. So I've got a lot of overhead lighting in my space. And then I have one actual like camera light or whatever you want to call it. But it's like one of those cheap like eco ones or whatever. Hold on. Does it even say? It doesn't even say what it is. It's so freaking cheap. But it was like $50 for the damn thing. And it comes with one of those CFL bulbs in it that probably costs more for the bulb than the whole fixture itself. And then it has the diffusion thing on it. Literally, it's just light in general. And you just try to get to the point where it just starts to wash out, because that's not what it looks like in real life when you're looking down on it. But it looks, right here, that's what it actually looks like. What I'm seeing on my screen, probably what you're seeing on yours, that's actually what it looks like at this angle. When I'm looking down at it in the way that you're looking at it. I don't know. Just things like that, right? And then two strokes. There's something about that sound. So you just got to get lights. It doesn't matter what kind of light it is. And honestly, incandescent lights, if you can get them, you're lucky if you live over there and they haven't banned incandescent bulbs like they have in the fucking States here. Because now you can only buy LED lighting over here in America. How nice. The worst freaking lighting possible. Stuff known to cause cancer and like literally give people headaches, and, can't grow a freaking plant with the damn thing. That's what they say must replace everything, only because it's just a little bit more, well, a lot of bit more, but, more energy efficient. But we don't even get the choice anymore. Has to be LED. Bull freaking crap, man. There's just something about incandescent lights that can't be beat. If I could use an incandescent bulb in my builds to light the freaking faceplate, I would. It's just impossible to do. So I have to find. You know how hard it is to find a 2400 Kelvin freaking LED to fit in the thing to light that thing, freaking possible. And even a 2400 isn't right. And then when you dim it down, it doesn't change color. It's not like a normal incandescent bulb where it goes from like, say, 3200, when it's full bright, which is basically about the temperature we're at now. Oh no, this is like 5500 right here, but 3200 is a little bit warmer color. But even still, let's say it's at 3200. When you dim it down, it'll go dim down to like 24 or lower, like 22 or 1800 Kelvin. 1800 to 2400 is like the magic spot. It's like that warm amber glow that just makes incandescent lights irreplaceable for that feel. You cannot emulate that with LED, period. You just can't do it. There's just something about that. So I work pretty hard to try to get my videos to look as good as they do on here, and it still looks like doo-doo to me. But this is the best it's been. Especially for doing live, I feel this is about as good as I can expect it to be. So, I don't know. But all I'm saying is that all you got to do is go to Walmart and buy another freaking lamp, and you can do it. I use those cheap, like, what do they call them? Like not CFL, but they're LED, but they're like shop lamps that are maybe only 2 to 3 feet long. And they're maybe $25 at the freaking, Home Depot or, Wally World or whatever you get them. That's what I use to do backlights and stuff like that. And then if I need them. Right now, I just have all the overhead lighting that I have, plus that one camera lens. It works. It's not great, but it gets the point across. Like, you can see color transitions pretty well. You can see Drago. Hi guys. I want to get a better camera because right now my limitation isn't my computer anymore, which I still need to pay for and get back to my buddy. He's very nice loaning it to me for as long as he has, but he does have a use for it and I need to get it back to him. But my camera up there, I thought it was going to be a good one. It's a OSB bot or something, Ozbot or whatever the heck they call it. It was only $100. But, it says it does 4K and all that shit, or, it does 1080 at 60, 60 hertz. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That's great. And the reviews about it were pretty good, but obviously people have better software than I do or something, because I got mine and it was just like, brother, wasn't going to work for me. So it took me probably a couple weeks before I could even get it to do anything that was usable for me. And now this is about as good as it gets right here. So it's good enough for me, but I'd love to get like a is it the VE7? Whatever the Sony is that's out there, but it's like $1,000 freaking camera. And it's, how do you explain it? It's not that I can't afford it. I just don't want to afford it. And the reason being is how much better is it going to get? And is it going to make things better for my content production? Probably not. Or do I stick that extra $900 that I saved and put it into another amp build, right? So it's more or less affording me to be able to do things like the giveaway amp here. I am not doing so well that I don't have a budget on stuff. I'm not a brokey, but I'm not hurting. It's just I still have to manage things. Like, I just can't go do whatever the hell I want whenever I want. But we're in a place now where it certainly doesn't hurt to spend money on a regular basis on this kind of content and doing this kind of stuff here. I can tell you right now, you bastard. There it goes. Hopefully, there it is. We're back. Sorry. For whatever reason, it disconnected there for a second. So, I don't know why. Everything was green until it wasn't. So, maybe we're just finally getting to that point. It's 2 hours and 35 minutes, and there it goes red again. So I don't know. Maybe the neighbors are watching porn or something like that. In either case, it's, how do I explain it? It didn't get the kind of attention I was hoping for. Like, I know that I'm not famous. I know I'm not that popular. I'm boring as hell to freaking watch. I'm amazed that I have as many subscribers as I do. And I thank you all. I appreciate you all. I love that. But you would think doing a giveaway, more people would be like, hell, I'll take anything I can get. It's freaking free. You can see it being made in real time, so you would think the interest would build as you get closer and closer to the end date. I was kind of hoping that by the time we got down to this last game, which is coming up, that we would have, maybe 100 people more interested. I was hoping to have about 100. I don't think I've broken 50 individuals that are like actually like game on for it for free. Like, it's nothing. It's a little bit of work to watch a video. Like, it's not like I'm having you watch all my videos or something like that, but a video, or just follow a rule in a post and do what you need to do. And that's apparently too much to ask. And I don't know. It's like, how do you give away a freaking amp then if you can't even get somebody to watch a video to get a point? So it's dawned on me, as I'm losing more and more viewers, that that's not the way to go, obviously. So I think any more of these that I do, it's just going to be, if I do another giveaway type thing like that, not a giveaway, but another raffle amp, if you will, it's going to be a raffle amp, period. And, if there's only 5 entrants, well, then I guess it's still a giveaway amp at that point. My hope is that the value of this will start to show as we complete it a little bit more, and you can see it's more and more tangible. And I think once it becomes more tangible, that's when it will start to build a little more actual interest. But by then, it'll be too freaking late. So, and then I'm hoping whoever wins it, if you're watching this video later on, I know there's only been 7 or 8 of you at any one given point in time, but my hope is that whoever wins it will do at least some sort of a review, if you will. Perhaps a video. I know I had a couple people that say I'm not going to do a video if I win it, but my hope is that they'll give me at least some sort of review that I can post and share with people, because it would be nice. Because again, this doesn't do me any good if you lie to me or bullshit me, or if you honestly think that it's just not worth it. Like, it's hard to not think that a free amp is not worth it, but you know what I mean? Like, if you get the amp and you're like, hey, I'd rather have a Marshall, then why the frick am I wasting all my time drilling holes and making sure everything is countersunk to an exact degree? You know what I mean? Then if I get enough of that kind of feedback, then maybe I'll just start making stupid, cheap-ass boxes and selling the same crap as everyone else. I don't like doing that, though. That's not how I roll. So, I don't know. I'm going to find something. This channel is more about learning than anything. I hope. I know we talk a bunch of bullshit and I yapped a lot, but I like interacting with people. I love the questions, and if I have an answer for it, I'll give it an answer. Most of the questions I've gotten have been pointed pretty good up my alley. But if I do get a question that I don't honestly know, I'll be the first to tell you I don't really know, or I don't really have an answer. And then, of course, when it comes to just building amplifiers, it's sound is that subjective thing. Like, I know for a fact, as much as I love most of my products, not all of them, but the ones that I really, really do like, I know that I can put it in 10 people's hands, and at least half of them are going to be like, fuck yeah. The other 5 might be like, it's all right. I know that. That is kind of where the aesthetic aspect of it, why the extra work goes into it. Because if you were to put any amp in 5 people's or 10 people's hands, a Marshall JCM, there's no way ever, if you gave them a blind test, they never knew what it was, right? They couldn't see with their eyes. They can only deal with it, right? You know what I mean? Even though it's not an apple-apple comparison, but there are still, 5 people that are going to be dissenting in some regard. They're like, yeah, it's cool. It just sounds like a JCM 800. Or, it does this freaking killer, but yeah, it doesn't do that. You know what I mean? I think any given amp is going to kind of have that sort of thing. I haven't found an amp that does the clean thing that you want it to do. and does the crunch thing that you want it to do, and does the high gain thing that you want it to do. And because everybody's idea of a high gain amp is pretty varied, I mean, otherwise there wouldn't be famous amps like the dual rectifier or the JVM series of amps from Marshall or the Soldano SLO100 or the Diesel, VH or Herbert series or whatever. You know what I mean? Like all these different brands, the Mesa Dual Rack, etc. There wouldn't be all of those if nobody liked them. So everybody has a different way of getting from point A to point B, and I don't think any one of those amps does all the things that everybody wants to do. There's an acceptable level, I guess, if you will, for everything. And I don't claim to be any different than that, especially since most all of my amps currently are all single channel. So it's either this or it's either that or something in between. And I don't hide that aspect out of it either, I don't think. I kind of feel that pedal platform amps is the way of the future. The way these pedals are going these days and the modeling and stuff that they have, the only thing that's breaking the feel down for most people is just the amp in the room kind of thing, where they have, a physical speaker moving air behind them. I don't think you can replace that. You can accept or tolerate or work with or, whatever around it, but it's not the first choice. I know that we've seen a lot of things lately, like Guthrie Govan, I think, is using an all-digital rig now. Joe Satriani is using more of a digital rig when he's not using his third power or whatever stuff. That's Joe Satriani. And then Steve Vai is starting to go towards more of a digital rig, but Steve Vai doesn't really have his amps anymore. Because Carvin's kind of gone away. So, he's either got to use what everyone else had before that wasn't good enough for him or use digital modeling to get there, right? Like, there's all these different bands that are going that direction, but at what point is it because they're still touring, they're still working in these random-ass venues, and it's more a pain in the ass to bring 3 or 4 guitar rigs? It'd be kind of like... oh gosh, what's the dude from Queen? I can't believe I'm drawing a blank right now. But you know what I mean? Like, it would be like somebody that is known for XYZ sound and having this wall of amplifiers behind them. And I can't... Brian May, for fuck's sakes. You know what I mean? It would be like Brian May going from, his wall of 9 AC30s down to his little... an Axe FX or something like that. It's just not practical unless there's a reason for it for them. And I think if they had the choice, they would go with the real deal. It's just not practical. Going from place to place and doing these gigs that are probably tougher and tougher to get and pay less and less and less over the years as they do it more and more. They're getting to that point where the amount of effort that is required to maintain the arsenal of amps that they would need and have it available at every single venue and maintain the level of repeatability. Yeah, that little box is starting to look pretty good. But, it's not like they're sitting there going, I'm in cloud freaking 9 every time they plug in. Like, no, I would bet if they were truly honest for you, to you, they would probably say, no, it's not the same, but I can get away with it. It works for me. And my in-ear monitoring makes it close enough that I can deal with it. You know what I mean? That kind of shit. Like, I can't believe John Mayer did the freaking Sphere gig the way that he did, where he had to have his amps outside or something like that, or whatever it was. Like, I don't know how we've ever gotten to a point where the venue itself can dictate what the artist is allowed and not allowed to do at that level. Nobody's there because it's the Sphere. Like, I don't give a fuck. Nobody gives a shit that it's the freaking Sphere. I don't think so. Maybe there is a few. I don't get me wrong. I mean, I was just being a little cheeky there, but you know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to go to watch a local band that does cover songs at the Sphere because it's the Sphere. It's the Sphere. They're going to go there because they love that band. Period. And when you're John Mayer and the Deadheads, or the Deadheads and John Mayer, or whatever the fucking hell it was, right? You're not going there because it's the Sphere. You're going there because it's John Mayer and, you know, the Deadheads, or whatever the heck that band was called. I can't remember off the top of my head. You know what I mean? So for the venue to dictate that you are not going to have, you know, any kind of amplified sound on this stage, period. If no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, I cannot understand how we've gotten to that point. And it's been, 50, 60 years now at the club level that bands have been walking in with some sort of an amp, and now we've got venues like that are like, no, it has to be all unamplified guitar rigs and stuff like that. And it's just like, how did we get to a point where the artist, the one that people are actually coming to see, not the venue, the artist, is dictating what that artist is going to do? Because the artist is the one who makes the shit happen. Like, that's where the magic's at. So I kind of feel like the balance of power shifted away, and people are letting him do it. So shame on John. Shame on him. He should have been like, fuck you, I'm not doing the gig then. Imagine what would happen then if enough venue or artists that go into that venue said, screw you, I'm not going to do it because this is bullshit. I mean, obviously enough money will change a lot of people's minds, I suppose, but from a level of integrity, I know for me that if, even at my level of fame, which is all of this much, zero, zip, zot, and whatever, like, I can poop out more popularity than I can achieve in the sunlight. I would still be like, no, just, I don't care. Fuck you. You can sit on this empty venue then for another day. Let people watch the LED lights flicker. I don't know. That's me. Because money doesn't move me in that regard. It's a shame. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Now, I know I only got like 3 or 4 of you in here. I know that you guys are watching, so please chime in if you would like. Because I'm at the point now where it's probably just about time to call it. Just saying. Randy, John, if you're still in here. It says that I got 4. I don't know how accurate that is, but yeah, I don't know. I'll take anything, though. If you don't have anything, I think we're going to have to call it. And then Randy can go back to making lantern videos. And John, you can start playing with distance on your mics. So going back to the microphone thing a little bit, I was talking about having air, and then we were talking about the distance between the direct sound and maybe like the ambient sound, the room sound. I like having a good balance. Like, again, going back to make it sound the way you want it to sound as you're recording it. If it sounds good, it is good. I don't really like dry guitar sounds because it sounds dry and it doesn't sound natural. Like, to me, everybody that plays an electric guitar plays in a space. So when you're playing in that space, what does it sound like to you? Like, when you get into a spot and you get it all dialed in and it sounds good, to you in that space, it sounds like XYZ. You're happy with it. You're not happy with it. You love it. It's the most glorious thing ever. Well, that's what you're trying to capture, right? But you're not ear to the speaker. You're ear in the middle of the room somewhere. So when you stick a microphone right up to the speaker cab, that's not the sound that you hear in the room. And for me, it's like trying to capture kind of that balance, I guess. Like, you need it to have the directness because it needs to record and punch well. But you also want it to kind of sound like it does to you in that space. So that's what I try to do, is like capture that. And that's why having multiple mics really helps. So you can have 2 or 3 mics on the cabinet itself and then a couple room mics. And between all of those different options, you can dial into that sound that is more like what it's actually like to be in the room. Now, why does that work? Because I've also said before that having multiple mics kind of goes against the physics aspect and all that jazz. Well, when you're in the middle of a room, you've got 2 ears, which is essentially like 2 microphones, and you've got 6 walls. That includes the ceiling and the floor, right? So you've got 4 walls around you and then 1 below and 1 above you, right? Those are all reflective surfaces to some degree. Carpet and other things be damned. But in one way or another, they all interact with each other. So depending on where you're at in that box that we were talking about, changes how you hear at the space in which you're at. So we have binaural hearing, kind of like we have binaural vision or whatever. So that's how we're able to co-locate things, right? So we can hear something from the left or the right. We can kind of tell if it's behind us or in front of us based on how our ears are designed and how that space reflects the sound to us. So microphones are a little bit different because they have a polar pattern, and the polar pattern kind of dictates how they pick up sound, and it sounds different depending on where you're at within that polar pattern. So obviously when the microphone is pointed directly at the source, hello, it's going to sound more direct, kind of like my voice talking directly into this microphone. But if I come off the microphone just a little bit, my voice is a little bit quieter, and you probably, or perhaps you should, at least anyway, hear less bass, so it sounds less full, and you should hear more of the room, right? And then, of course, when I eat the mic and literally get on top of the thing and cup it, you can hear how more direct and nasally it sounds. Well, that's why mics do the thing that they do, because you change how they react in that space. So that's all there is to it. I don't know. You got to play with things. It's not that your recording sound bad. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that, I don't like dry sounds. I like natural sounds. And a little bit of reverb, even though it's not natural to the space, it gives it a feel, and the feel is also important too. So adding effects later, even if they're subtle, it doesn't even matter. Like just something subtle to kind of give it the space, like a space beyond the space that it's in. It really helps a lot too. I'm not saying that's what you need to do, but I mean, I'm just saying that in general, there's some amount of space that you're going to have to add to a mix. Especially in recordings, if you're doing like multi-track recordings, you cannot have 5 different guitars with 5 different reverbs and expect it to work. It's not going to work. So you got to take 5 different dry sounds and then bust it down into a single mix or a couple, a stereo mix at least, and then add the reverb to that. Even if the room mic is built into that dry mix that you got or the main, stereo bus mix that you got, adding just a little bit of reverb, just a touch. I mean, we're talking just a touch and properly EQ'd so it doesn't stand out or doesn't, get in the way, I guess, if you will. It glues all of them together, and then it sounds like one ginormous guitar, as opposed to just a guitar with a reverb added to it, right? So that's the challenge too, is like gluing it all together. So it doesn't sound like 5 different guitars that are kind of just layered together, but it sounds like 5 different guitars that are one guitar. That's the hard part. That's the magic of it. And then you can get that depth, the richness, the fullness, all the above, right? You can have that direct sound if you need it, and you can balance between having some of the room sound in there. And then when you add just that touch of reverb over the top, it just ties the two together. So it kind of sounds like it's just one big freaking bah. That's the challenging part. I don't do a whole lot of studio work though. So for me, doing live stuff, that's what I have to do. So obviously a lot of guitarists, they have reverb built into their amps, or they, use a Strymon or some sort like that. Whatever the pedal du jour might be, but they'll add all that stuff in, but I've got 2 guitarists, and they're probably doing 2 different things, and I got to figure out how to glue them together a little bit so they don't just sound so distinct from one another, right? So, excuse me. But so I'll pan them, opposite sides of the stage, so they still kind of have that distance, right? But I still want somebody on this side over here, this guy here, to notice this guy over here, even though he's mainly coming out of this side of the PA. And you're like, well, how do you make it so he can still hear that guitar kind of as a thing in the whole of the mix? Well, when you add reverb, it's stereo reverb, right? So even though he's panned over here, the reverb is still doing its thing. So he's still over in this speaker over here, which means he'll still hear that the guitar over there is present. It just doesn't interact as much, right? So even though this other guitarist is playing and he can hear that direct sound a little bit more, he can still tell that there's another guitar in the background there. It's just enough, like you can just hear the directness of it from the speaker. But that reverb, that space, that air that's added to it is enough to tie it all back together again. So you're never really truly mono or dual mono or truly stereo. You're just trying to separate things enough that they don't interact with each other entirely. And it gives that space, and you can define one from the other, no matter where you're at in the mix. So that's why I don't believe when people say that at these large events where you've got, stack of speakers on either side, that you have to mix in mono. That's absolute bullcrap. Then why are you going to have 2 freaking stacks of speakers? Is it for the coverage? Bullshit. It's not for the coverage, because if you put the freaking stack right in the goddamn middle, you'd cover the same amount of area. In theory, right? Even if you put 2 stacks in the middle and point them out, you still cover the same area, comes out of the middle, and everything's freaking mono, right? Well, that's not practical, because then you got this giant hang or a bunch of speakers right in the middle of the stage, right? Well, that's why I call bullshit, because when you split those speakers up and you mix everything in mono, the amount of phase interaction and all the other crap that goes on is astro-freaking-nomical. The mathematics behind it, they have to create modelers to do it, because you can't envision it in your damn head. It's a freaking mess. When 2 of the same signal comes out of 2 different sources at the same time and at the same power, no matter where you're at in that space, it's always going to be different. You're never going to get the same spot, the same sound in 2 different spaces, because there's always going to be some amount of destructive interference. So it is always best to mix things in stereo, period. I don't give a shit about the argument about this guy over here and the speaker and the sound coming out over there. They can freaking hear it still. It might be quieter, but they can still damn hear it. And that's the thing that you're trying to do, is get the distinction between this point and this point here where the listener is. So pan it around and make it so that more points in that space don't interact as much, right? And the mix is more uniform. So if you have a stereo keyboard, pan it left and right. Make it so it's wide as all hell. If you got 2 guitarists, pan one, I'm not saying hard left and hard right, but pan one over and pan the other over. Give everybody space. That's it. Things that don't matter as much, kick drum, right? Like, yeah, obviously the kick drum sounds like a kick drum. So if you balance everything out right, then it shouldn't be problematic. It's going to go up the middle. But there are tricks to also make it so it works well out of a stereo rig by doing different processing, splitting the kick up into 2 channels and processing different. There's so many different tricks that you can do. There is no freaking excuse anymore for this kind of crap. So I am getting tired of yip-yapping, and we've gone off the deep end and gotten into the physics side of doing sound and stupid shit like that. Things that I think about anyway. It's not that I'm right or wrong. It's just those are the things that go through my head, and those are some of the solutions I try to think about when I'm trying to fix this crap. So that's what I had to do before. I don't do that shit anymore. Now I'm an IT technician during the day, and I build amps at night and talk bullshit and all that fun stuff. So you guys, I've got to urinate again, and it's getting late. It's like 9:30 here. I've been doing this for 3 hours. This is officially my longest chat ever. I'm going to call it a day. Thank you all so much for coming. I hope we'll see you some more. We got a new amp build coming up. We got a giveaway coming up. So many more things coming up. So we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Goodbye.